Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Reacts to Multiverse. Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. It was a typical day at UA. The class was lively, with Bakugo shouting at Midoriya, who was trying to hold back tears. Ida was energetically lecturing Denki, using hand gestures to emphasize his points, while Aizawa was peacefully napping in his sleeping bag. Everything seemed normal until an unexpected twist occurred. Suddenly, the class found themselves in a theater-like room. All the familiar faces were present, including heroes like All Might, Present Mike, and Nizu, along with some parents, such as Inko Midoriya and Mitsuki Bakugo. An echoing voice introduced itself as Author-san, the host of this unusual gathering, promising an adventure. Bakugo, confused and frustrated, demanded to know who this person was and why they were there. Author-san explained that they would be exploring various multiverses featuring Izuku Midoriya, who was peacefully unconscious in a corner. The host reassured everyone that he was fine and that they needed him asleep for the event to proceed. As the theater screen illuminated, a countdown began, signaling the start of the show. The narrative shifted to a personal dilemma. One character had developed a crush on someone who seemed like an unlikely match, given their tumultuous relationship. This crush was none other than Katsuki Bakugo. The revelation caused an uproar among their friends, with Bakugo expressing his disbelief and frustration at the situation. However, the crush was complicated by the fact that Bakugo had feelings for someone else, Shoto Todoroki. The news left Bakugo stunned and blushing, while laughter erupted from their friends. The character reflected on the pain of unrequited love, feeling the weight of their emotions. After class ended, they were approached by Kirishima, who warned them to stay away from Bakugo, asserting his claim over him. The encounter left the character shaken, and they took a moment to gather themselves before heading to their next class. In a different perspective, Bakugo was distracted by Todoroki, feeling annoyed that Midoriya was watching him instead of focusing on their rivalry. Frustrated, he confronted Todoroki, leading to an impulsive moment where he kissed him. However, Todoroki did not reciprocate and instead pushed him away, leaving Bakugo confused and angry. Midoriya, witnessing the scene, felt his heart break and rushed to the bathroom, locking himself in a stall to cry. He heard voices outside, including Todoroki's gentle tone and Bakugo's more aggressive demands. Eventually, he emerged, tears still in his eyes, and faced the two boys. Bakugo and Todoroki asked why he was upset, and Midoriya hesitated before admitting he was hurt by what he had seen. The revelation led to a tense moment where Bakugo teased Midoriya about his feelings, prompting him to reveal that he liked one of them. With a shaky hand, Midoriya pointed to Bakugo, leaving both boys stunned. As the day came to an end, Midoriya avoided both Bakugo and Todoroki, feeling overwhelmed by the events. Once home, he changed into a comfortable outfit and was startled by a knock on his door. When he opened it, he found Bakugo and Todoroki standing there, ready to discuss a potential deal. Intrigued, he invited them inside, unsure of what was to come next. They sat on the couch while I positioned myself furthest away from them. My curiosity was piqued when Todoroki-kun explained their idea. He mentioned that since I liked Bakugo, and Bakugo had some feelings for me and Todoroki, they thought we could explore a three-way relationship. Kaken asked if I wanted to try it out, and I nodded enthusiastically, a big smile spreading across my face. They returned my smile, and the rest of the night was filled with cuddling and watching movies. As Denki walked down the hall, he noticed Kirishima sitting with his head in his hands, looking quite sad. Wanting to cheer him up, Denki approached him and asked what was wrong. Kirishima revealed that he had just received a notification on Instagram stating that Bakugo was in a relationship with Todoroki and me. Denki inquired why that made him sad, and Kirishima admitted that he had feelings for Bakugo. Seeing Kirishima's distress, Denki gently lifted his chin and kissed him. To his surprise, Kirishima kissed back. After they pulled away, Kirishima smiled brightly, and Denki felt a blush rise to his cheeks. Kirishima remarked that perhaps it wouldn't be so hard to move on from Bakugo. Denki offered to walk him home, and they held hands, smiling the entire way. As I prepared to take off my shoes, I spotted a boy with braided hair on the rooftop. Without thinking, I shouted for him not to jump. I was surprised by my own words, but I felt compelled to intervene. The boy shared his troubles, expressing his despair over someone he thought might be the one, only to find out they were done with him. Anger surged within me as I confronted him, questioning how he could feel so defeated when he had never truly lost anything. Images flashed in my mind of a young Midoriya being bullied while teachers stood by. I couldn't help but think that they should have intervened. The boy with the braids thanked me for listening, and as he began to fade away, I felt a sense of loss wash over me. A girl in the group remarked that the boy looked familiar, and everyone nodded in agreement. They were all captivated by the unfolding story. The scene shifted to another day when I saw a different boy on the rooftop. He expressed feelings of isolation and being ignored. I pleaded with him, reminding him that he was loved at home, where dinner was always waiting. The scene transitioned to his mother in a hospital bed, and then to him eating alone at a table. Inko, watching the scene, learned that in this universe, she was in a medical-induced coma due to a car accident. The boy shed a tear as he disappeared, leaving behind a sense of emptiness. Suddenly, I saw a group of boys with green hair, each one slightly different from the last. I listened to their stories, feeling a connection to their pain. Then, I noticed someone wearing a yellow cardigan. This boy turned to reveal black hair and red eyes. He expressed a desire to escape the pain he felt at home. Once again, I found myself shouting for him not to jump, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. Despite my pleas, he looked away and vanished. In the silence that followed, I felt utterly alone. The silhouette of the boy in the yellow cardigan appeared, holding hands with Izuku. As the scene unfolded, the boy with braids stood behind him, preparing to jump. In that moment, the audience cried out in despair, urging him not to take that leap. The story began with a girl who had mid-length forest green hair, freckles, and green eyes, appearing to be around junior high age. She stood in front of a mirror in her underwear, sadness evident on her face. Uraraka noticed the girl and asked if that was Deku. Ida inquired why she looked sad, while Denki speculated if she was unhappy with her body. The author hinted that the situation would make sense soon. Inko called from downstairs, announcing that Katsuki had arrived. Izuki quickly got dressed and rushed downstairs, where Bakugo stood by the door, urging her to hurry up. Once outside, Bakugo's demeanor softened as he asked if she had told her mom yet. Izuki expressed her fears about her mom's reaction, worrying about being rejected or kicked out. Bakugo dismissed her worries, reminding her not to dwell on the what-ifs and to take action. Tsu remarked on Bakugo's unexpected kindness, prompting a defensive outburst from him. Shiro and Denki reassured him that Tsu meant no harm. Mina wondered why Izuki thought her mom wouldn't accept her, and Inko affirmed her unconditional love for her child. Izuki thanked Bakugo, who responded with a reassuring tone, using her name, which brought tears of joy to her eyes. As the scene shifted to Yue, Izuku reflected on his struggles with love and the stress it brought. He approached Bakugo with a sad expression, questioning if he was tired of him. Bakugo reassured him, and Izuku promised that he would find a way to escape their troubles. The scene transitioned to Izuku in the bathroom, contemplating a change. He resolved to cut his hair and hide his chest, determined to find a way to be true to himself. He walked downstairs, where his mother embraced him with tears of joy, expressing her unconditional support, regardless of who he chose to be. At school, Izuku felt nervous walking in with Bakugo. While his classmates accepted him, word spread quickly, and soon the entire school was aware of his situation. Monoma taunted him, but Izuku responded with a poetic reflection on his feelings of isolation. Momo expressed her admiration for Izuku's supportive mother, while Uraraka lamented Monoma's bullying. As the story progressed, Izuku felt lost, unsure of himself. Monoma continued to mock him, but Aizawa intervened, asking for space. Monoma's insults about Izuku's appearance and identity were met with a reminder from Aizawa that everyone deserves respect. Izuku asked Aizawa why he helped him, and Aizawa revealed his own scars, indicating his understanding of Izuku's struggles. Izuku felt a strange sense of belonging in that moment. Mina expressed her affection for the story, prompting Denki to ask Aizawa if he was transgender. Aizawa confirmed it, and the class responded with cheers and support, surprising him with their acceptance. As the chapter came to a close, the scene shifted to Deku, who appeared worn and translucent. He looked directly at the camera with a haunting gaze, and when he opened his mouth to speak, water spilled out, symbolizing his emotional turmoil. The narrative then revealed a dream where everything seemed perfect, yet it felt like a nightmare to him, highlighting the complexities of his feelings and experiences. The scene depicted a 14-year-old standing on a bridge, reflecting on the events that had just transpired on the roof. Confusion surrounded him, with everyone questioning the situation, except for All Might, who understood the truth. He felt a deep sorrow for the boy. As he stepped off the edge, no one cried or even noticed his absence. It flashed forward, revealing that it took weeks for anyone to realize he was gone, and even then, only his mother seemed to care. He had hoped that someone would show concern. The scene shifted to a younger Midoriya, age 4, alongside a younger Bakugo, also 4. Bakugo reassured him, promising that as long as he was there, no one could hurt him. He expressed a desire to help Midoriya see his own worth, suggesting that if he could change how Midoriya viewed himself, he wouldn't feel undeserving. They shared a hug and ran off to play on the swings. Back to the present, Midoriya felt a sense of desperation, as if he were submerged underwater, unable to scream. He had been labeled weak, as if he were not worthy of being someone's son. It felt like a nightmare, but their taunts echoed in his mind, making it feel all too real. Days felt like years, and he struggled with the weight of expectations from others, who sought to take advantage of him for lunch money, school notes, and even his quirk. He felt the pressure of not wanting to disappoint anyone. The scene shifted again, showing Bakugo holding a childhood picture of him and Midoriya, with Midoriya sitting beside him. Bakugo reiterated his promise of protection and support, encouraging Midoriya to learn to see himself differently. Midoriya paced in his dorm room, contemplating whether he would make the same choices if given the chance. Memories of Bakugo's teasing for not having a quirk flooded back, and he wondered what others would say if they knew the impact of their words. The scene transitioned to Bakugo sleeping peacefully, before waking up to face a new day. In a dark abyss, Midoriya confronted a version of himself with dark green hair and red eyes, dressed in a black hoodie and ripped jeans. They exchanged thoughts about their struggles, questioning why they stayed in their current situation and expressing feelings of being trapped. They reminisced about their childhood, sharing moments of closeness and connection, but also the burdens they carried. The conversation turned to dreams and aspirations, with one side yearning for fame and recognition while the other sought freedom and individuality. As they continued to grapple with their identities, the tension between their contrasting desires became palpable. One side longed for companionship, while the other craved solitude. The narrative shifted back to the present, where Nizu speculated that Midoriya was battling with his darker impulses, trying to prevent them from taking control. The realization hung in the air, as the struggle within him became clearer. Okay, everyone, this is the second part of Evelyn. Get ready. The atmosphere was tense as one character expressed their frustration. They questioned if the other was afraid, pointing out that without them, the other would never have written anything. There was a sense of longing for the past, reminiscing about the days when they shared scary dreams. One character felt neglected, wondering why their companion was never there for them. The other character, feeling cornered, dismissed the conversation, indicating it was time to move on. They recalled moments from their past, highlighting the emotional weight of their shared experiences. The first character insisted they were integral to the other's success, challenging them about wanting to eliminate their main source of inspiration. As they discussed returning to UA, excitement mixed with tension filled the air. They were both aware of the audience watching them, and one character expressed hurt over being told they were unwanted. They reflected on their bond, acknowledging how long they had been together and how one had always been a part of the other's life. The dialogue shifted to a more intense exchange, with one character questioning the other's motives and decisions. They argued about the nature of their relationship, with one insisting they were the heart of their shared journey. The conversation turned philosophical, pondering the meaning of love, pain, and existence without one another. Despite the heated discussion, they found moments of humor, teasing each other about their living situation and the past. One character suggested digging a hole, leading to a playful banter about fear and vulnerability. They acknowledged their struggles and the importance of confronting their issues rather than burying them. As the scene progressed, they prepared to return to a place of significance, reflecting on their history and the challenges ahead. One character expressed a desire to reconnect with someone from their past, hinting at unresolved feelings and the need for closure. The narrative shifted to a quieter moment, with one character lying in bed, their appearance changing as they opened their eyes to reveal a new, unsettling color. The scene transitioned to a concerned friend, expressing worry about the character's transformation and hinting at darker developments to come. The story hinted at deeper connections and the complexities of their relationships, leaving the audience eager to see what would unfold next. He walked down the street, gazing at all the All Might posters, feeling a deep resentment for what had been said on that fateful day on the roof. That roof haunted him, and he vowed never to forget it. All Might was depicted rushing into battle with a smile, embodying blue, blonde, royalty, and fame. The images flashed to All Might standing triumphantly after defeating villains, showcasing his prowess. He seemed to have it all, effortlessly navigating the games and rivalries he had faced. Scenes of that roof replayed in his mind, filled with the rules he had chosen to bend and break. He recalled moments of confronting villains, even when they were merely going about their day. Given the chance, he would relive it all. The scene shifted to All Might in his smaller form, bound to a chair with a BNHA, while Deku stood before him, holding a knife. The tension was palpable as Deku expressed his desire for power and control. He wanted the throne. Deku taunted All Might, suggesting he was unaware of the heroes waiting to take his place. Jealousy and whispers filled the air as he played his own game. The words echoed, reminding All Might to keep his enemies close. Then, in a swift motion, Deku slashed at All Might, a symbolic gesture that left a mark. He demanded to know if All Might remembered their conversation on that day. All Might, filled with shame, acknowledged the moment. Deku urged him to share his words with the audience, holding up a camera broadcasting to the city. All Might reluctantly admitted that he had told Deku it was impossible for him to become a hero without a quirk. Deku highlighted the impact of those words, revealing how they crushed the dreams of a quirkless child who had idolized All Might. He declared that the audience was now witnessing the downfall of their symbol of peace. As Deku made a dramatic gesture, the atmosphere shifted, casting a shadow over Japan, leaving everyone unprepared for the ensuing chaos. Later, Aizawa inquired if the events on the roof had truly occurred. All Might hung his head in shame, realizing the consequences of his earlier actions. He confirmed that it had indeed happened, prompting gasps from the audience. Aizawa quickly shifted the focus, assuring everyone that things were better now and it was time to move on to the next story. The scene transitioned to a lighter moment, featuring a lineup of villains: Deku, Toga, Shigaraki, Kurojiiri, and Dabi. Present Mike engaged Bakugo in conversation, asking if he recognized any of the villains. Bakugo, having been in the kitchen, mentioned hearing someone singing. Mike encouraged the villains to sing a popular song, leading to a humorous exchange as they took turns. Laughter erupted in the theater as they all joined in, recalling the lightheartedness of the moment. The audience shared a collective laugh, appreciating the absurdity of the situation, and the atmosphere lightened, reminding them of the camaraderie that could exist even amidst chaos. A portal began to expand, and a group of children stepped through it. The first was a girl with teal hair and brown eyes, reminiscent of Tsuyu. Following her was a girl with pink hair, sporting a horn on one side of her head and a bolt on the other. Next came a boy who bore a striking resemblance to Bakugo, with an undercut that was chestnut brown on the sides and ash blonde on top. A boy with red hair, black at the roots and red eyes, followed him, along with another boy who had green and red hair and ice blue eyes. A girl with similar hair colors but gray and ice blue eyes came next. Then, a little boy appeared, looking like a younger version of Aizawa, though he had dark brown eyes. A girl with long blue hair, fangs, one red eye, and one yellow eye was next, and finally, a blonde boy with spiky hair and olive green eyes completed the group. Everyone in the room stared in awe, trying to determine which child belonged to whom. Before the introductions began, AS mentioned needing to bring in some additional guests and asked everyone to remain calm. All Might questioned why there would be any reason to panic. AS then snapped her fingers, and Shigaraki, Toga, and Dabi appeared in the room, prompting All Might to react with alarm. AS reassured everyone that the villains needed to be present to see their children. AS instructed the kids to introduce themselves, sharing their names, parents, quirks, pro-hero names, statuses, sexualities, and ages. The girl with teal hair stepped forward first. She introduced herself as River Azui, the daughter of Ochako Uraraka and Tsuyu Azui. Her quirk was called Floating Frog, allowing her to extend her frog-like tongue and make objects float with her fingertips. She was in Class 1A, her pro-hero name was Crazy Frog, she identified as asexual, and she was 16 years old. After her introduction, River went to sit with her mothers. Next, the girl with pink hair approached. She introduced herself as Kami Kaminari, the daughter of Denki Kaminari and Mina Ishido. Her quirk, which she referred to as acid shocking, enabled her to produce harmless acid from her hands that would shock anything it touched when she snapped her fingers. However, overuse could lead to serious consequences. She was also in Class 1A, her pro-hero name was Faudre, which meant lightning in French, and she identified as a lesbian, being 15.5 years old. After her introduction, she joined her parents. Then, a boy who resembled Aizawa bounded onto the stage with exuberance. He introduced himself as Knight Aizawa, the son of Shoyuta Aizawa and Hisashi Yamada. His quirk, Erasing Scream, allowed him to erase others' quirks for a minute by yelling, though it caused him throat pain. He was in Class 1A, served as vice president, and his pro-hero name was Midnight Shadow. He identified as gay and was 16 years old. He then walked over to his astonished parents. Next, the child who looked like Bakugo stepped forward. He introduced himself as Eiji Bakugo, the child of Ijiro Kirishima and Katsuki Bakugo. Eiji identified as non-binary and preferred they-them pronouns. Their quirk, Exploding Rocks, allowed them to create rocks that could explode on command, with the explosion size depending on the rock size. However, the loud explosions could affect their sensitive ears. Eiji was in Class 1A, served as class representative, and their pro-hero name was Pop Rocks. They identified as demisexual and were 16.5 years old. After introducing themselves, Eiji walked over to their dads and encouraged the next child to step forward. "What? Oh yeah," the boy with black and red hair said. He introduced himself as Hikaru Bakugo, hinting at his famous parents. His quirk, Hard Explosions, allowed him to harden his skin, which would trigger explosions upon impact. However, the drawbacks included potential deafness and dry skin from the hardening process. With a smirk, he declared his pro-hero name to be King Explosion Murder. His father, Bakugo, proudly shouted from his seat, affirming his identity. Hikaru continued, mentioning that he was in Class 1A, identifying as straight, and was 16.5 years old. He then called on the next student. A collective gasp filled the room when he mentioned the name Tuya. Todoroki's thoughts raced at the mention of it. The next student introduced himself as Tuya Midoriya, the child of Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki. He shared that he was transgender FTM but chose not to disclose his previous name. Tuya identified as pansexual and explained his quirk, Icy Hot, which allowed him to produce blue flames from his left side and regular flames from his right. He cautioned that overusing his flames could lead to burns on his skin. His pro-hero name was Inferno, and he was also 16 years old. Next, a girl with green and white hair stepped forward. She introduced herself as Nico Midoriya, also the child of Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki. Nico, who was transgender MTF, identified as bisexual. She explained that her quirk mirrored her father's but was reversed. She noted that the downside of her quirk was the risk of frostbite on her right side and burns on her left. Her pro-hero name was Ignis Glacies, meaning fiery ice. Like the others, she was in Class 1A and was then, a girl with blue hair introduced herself as Togami Shigaraki, the daughter of Tamura Shigaraki and Himiko Toga. Her quirk allowed her to disintegrate objects by consuming their blood, but she could only drink a limited amount before it upset her stomach. Her villain name was Sandman, and she was 16 and identified as a lesbian. As she walked toward her parents, she noticed the disapproving glares from the pro-heroes. Kami, another student, defended her, insisting that Togami had done nothing wrong. The room fell silent, surprised by the unexpected support from a hero in training. Finally, the last student stepped up. Hiroko Dabi introduced himself as the child of the villain Dabi, mentioning that he had never met his mother. He explained his quirk, Hot Ice, which allowed him to create ice so cold that it could burn skin. However, he warned that overuse could harm himself as well. His villain name was Hell's Angel, and he was 16 and a half years old, identifying as gender fluid. After a brief pause, the instructor announced that it was time to say goodbye. The children and their parents exchanged heartfelt farewells before stepping through the portal, marking the end of their gathering. The scene opens with Deku sitting on a bar stool, holding a box of pizza. He expressed his frustration at his companions, tossing the box toward Uraraka, Ida, and Kaminari, who eagerly reached for it. Uraraka pointed out that they weren't exactly alone in their situation, while Ida questioned if they were supposed to eliminate Bakugo. Bakugo, surprised, reacted loudly, wondering if they were villains. Uraraka asked if she was really supposed to be a villain, to which the response was a hesitant yes. Ida and Uraraka exchanged worried glances, while Kaminari seemed thrilled to be part of the unfolding drama. Bakugo, realizing he was cast as the king, felt a mix of pride and concern, especially when Kirishima reminded him that Deku was plotting against him. Bakugo dismissed the threat, confident in his strength, but was taken aback when it was revealed that Deku would eventually succeed in his plan. Deku, wearing a wicked smirk, leaped off the stool and approached his followers, shadowy figures emerging around him. He taunted them, emphasizing their lack of awareness, and playfully chastised Denki for his inattentiveness. Denki, feeling insulted, reacted defensively, while Jiro found humor in the situation, despite Deku's glare silencing her. Deku then shifted to a more theatrical stance, singing about kings and successions, causing Uraraka and Ida to laugh. He playfully startled them by jumping at them, asserting that they couldn't be caught off guard. With a dramatic flair, he sang about the opportunities ahead, walking around the room and engaging his friends in the performance. Uraraka, curious about her role, asked where she fit into the plan. Deku pinched her cheek lightly, urging her to listen. He reassured them that despite the sordid nature of his intentions, they would be rewarded in the end. With a mischievous kick, he sent Denki tumbling off the bar, eliciting a mix of laughter and exasperation from Bakugo and Jiro. Deku raised his arms wide, declaring the need for preparation as his shadowy creatures echoed his sentiments. The scene shifted to a balcony where Deku observed the Nomus marching in formation, their respect evident as they acknowledged their creator. He reminded them of the responsibilities that came with power, mimicking a slicing motion to emphasize the seriousness of his ambitions. As the camera zoomed out, the sight of countless Nomus marching in unison filled the screen. Deku sang about the future filled with rewards, landing on a lower platform where his friends stood. With a sly grin, he cornered Denki, asserting that nothing would come without his involvement. He leaped onto boxes labeled Quirk Extractor, detailing his meticulous plans for the future. The Nomus joined in, singing about the abundance they would share, while Deku boasted about his undisputed reign. The scene culminated in a chaotic yet joyful chorus, with everyone laughing as the screen faded to black. As the scene concluded, the audience was left in awe, with Zero exclaiming about the sheer number of Nomus Deku had created. Bakugo, feeling the weight of the situation, expressed his concern about the unfolding events. The story began with a vibrant scene featuring Bakugo, Kirishima, Kaminari, and Midoriya, all dressed in modern outfits that showcased their unique styles. The group was known as the most popular in school, their status bolstered by their wealthy families. Kaminari expressed excitement about their appearance, exclaiming how pretty they looked. Bakugo and Kirishima nodded in agreement, sharing in the moment. Bakugo confronted Midoriya, her finger pointed in a challenging manner. She warned that although she could easily retaliate, she was feeling generous and offered some advice instead. The atmosphere was charged, but Bakugo's playful demeanor kept things light. The group began to sing about their lifestyle, celebrating their confidence and carefree attitude. They highlighted their love for fashion, shopping, and living life to the fullest, while also teasing those who didn't fit in with their crowd. The lyrics were filled with playful jabs at others, but it was all in good fun. As they performed, Uraraka watched from the sidelines, looking disheartened. Kirishima and Kaminari quickly reassured her, bowing in apology for any offense. Uraraka acknowledged their kindness, grateful for their support. The song continued, emphasizing the thrill of being part of their exclusive group. They encouraged others to join them, presenting a choice between embracing their lifestyle or remaining on the sidelines. The energy was infectious, and the group thrived on the excitement of their performance. Midoriya, feeling a mix of emotions, was approached by Bakugo, who inquired if she wanted to join their group. Denki added that she would need to distance herself from Uraraka and comply with their requests. Amused by their antics, Midoriya agreed, ready to embrace the new chapter in her life. As the scene faded to black, the excitement of their journey lingered in the air, leaving the audience eager for what was to come next. At 8 years old, he was kicking and screaming, insisting he would only go to school if given a good reason. He already knew the kids could be mean and questioned the value of what they were teaching. He hopped into the car, and his mother let him skip school to grab a cup of coffee. She was the only one who truly understood him. No one else could see who he really was. Arriving late to class, he stared out the window, watching the clock tick away. He daydreamed of a simpler world, feeling overwhelmed by the grayness around him. Every day he wished for something to change, but instead his father made him play ball by the bay. When he cried, his father would roll his eyes and say it was his fault for not trying harder. He did everything expected of him, yet he felt misunderstood. This is a story about a broken boy, using his headphones to block out the noise of everyone telling him how to live his life. He walked through the world alone, wondering if things would ever get better or if he would always feel empty. He often got lost, trying to find another way back home. At 15, he was drowning his sorrows, turning to substances to escape. He surrounded himself with fake friends, trying to fit in, but it never worked. He had run-ins with the law a few times, nothing too serious, but he often questioned his choices. He reminded himself that he deserved better and that no one would truly understand him. He began writing down his thoughts, discovering that music made life more bearable. After losing weight and looking different, he planned his escape from a crooked hometown. He continued to do what was expected of him, yet he still felt misunderstood. This is a story about a broken boy, using his headphones to block out the noise of everyone telling him how to live his life. He walked through the world alone, wondering if things would ever get better or if he would always feel empty. He often got lost, trying to find another way back home. At 21, he found himself on the right path, but sometimes he wondered if he had grown up too quickly and missed out on the little things. He questioned if there was someone else out there who shared his struggles, but he would never know, as he continued to walk the world alone. As he finished his performance, the crowd began chanting for an encore. He laughed and agreed to sing one more song. He began, telling a tale of a boy who once lived far away, who sought solace in substances to numb his pain. Friends mocked him, and he turned to whiskey and pills, believing they were his only friends. He sang about the emptiness he felt and the longing for connection, questioning why he couldn't find the same escape that others did. As he concluded the song, the crowd cheered, chanting his name. Once off stage, he was met by Bakugo and Todoroki, who expressed their concern for him. They wished he had shared his feelings with them, assuring him they were there to help. Deku felt tears welling up, apologizing for upsetting them. The boys rushed to console him, reassuring him that it was okay to feel this way and that they were not angry. They promised him that he was perfectly fine. The scene faded to black, capturing the moment of warmth and understanding between the boys. Suddenly, Bakugo shouted in disbelief, while Todoroki sat blushing. The rest of Class 1 erupted in laughter, leaving a light-hearted atmosphere in the air. School had let out due to the pandemic, providing an opportunity to write new chapters, depending on the amount of free time available between homework. The author welcomed any requests, feeling that the input from readers was invaluable and appreciated. There was a mention of possibly starting a story featuring second-generation characters, likely as one-shots, and the author was eager to hear which pairings readers thought would be cute. Some characters had not yet been introduced, along with an exciting backstory for a parent that the author found intriguing. The scene opened with a portal, and the League of Villains stepped through, taking their seats in the theater. The author promised not to keep everyone waiting and began the story. The screen displayed a battleground where All Might faced off against All for One, while Midoriya watched from a distance, visibly distressed. Kirishima tried to reassure Midoriya, believing that All Might would be fine. However, the author hinted that Midoriya's tears were for a different reason. As the battle intensified, All Might stood over All for One, declaring that his evil deeds would end. All for One responded defiantly, insisting that evil would always prevail. All Might, filled with determination, struck a decisive blow. Midoriya, overwhelmed with emotion, rushed to All for One's side, cradling his head in his lap and crying out in despair. All Might urged Midoriya to step away, but the boy's face twisted with rage as he accused All Might of causing the tragedy. In a moment of defiance, Midoriya used his power to push All Might away. The audience gasped at Midoriya's unexpected reaction, struggling to comprehend why he would lash out at someone he had always admired. All Might, confused and hurt, questioned why Midoriya was so angry. The author encouraged everyone to keep watching, promising that the truth would soon be revealed. As Midoriya continued to mourn, the authorities arrived and attempted to pull him away from All for One. He fought against them, desperate to stay by the villain's side. The officer explained that it was too dangerous to remain in the area, but Midoriya's cries echoed with heartbreak. The audience felt sympathy for Midoriya as he struggled, still not understanding the depth of his sorrow. All Might, perplexed, sought answers while the author urged everyone to stay tuned for the conclusion. Midoriya's resistance led to more officers being called for assistance. In a moment of anguish, he yelled accusations at All Might, calling him a murderer and pleading for his father. The screen then faded to black, leaving the audience in stunned silence. All for One questioned the revelation that Midoriya was his son, while All Might denied the possibility. The author clarified that in this universe, Midoriya was indeed All for One's son, a secret known only to them. All Might was relieved to learn that this was not the case in their own universe, but the author hinted at conspiracies surrounding the topic. The chapter concluded with the author expressing gratitude for the reader's support and inviting further requests, hoping everyone had a wonderful day or night. Everyone nodded in agreement, even the villains, as AS announced that they would take a break to look at some memes. A flash of light filled the room, and Midoriya suddenly appeared. He waved cheerfully at everyone. AS was eager to get started with the first meme. Laughter erupted in the theater, while Shigaraki hid his face in embarrassment. Midoriya pointed out that the meme was offensive to Mr. Aizawa, who was peacefully sleeping. AS reassured him that it was just a meme and meant no harm. Midoriya mumbled an apology, and AS moved on to the next meme. Once again, laughter filled the room. Kaminari remarked on how accurate the meme was, while Shigaraki threatened Todoroki, who was slowly putting down a stick. Siro couldn't contain his laughter at Todoroki's expression, and Todoroki shared a story about a similar incident that had happened in the locker room after training. Everyone looked at him curiously. Ida and Todoroki exchanged glances with Midoriya, prompting Todoroki to ask if Midoriya had been trained by Stain. Midoriya quickly denied it, and Todoroki, still eyeing him skeptically, said he believed him. Uraraka chimed in, suggesting that Midoriya's understanding of the situation might be off. Mina pointed out how scary All Might looked in one of the memes, and Denki agreed. AS announced that it would be the last meme for now, to which everyone expressed their disappointment. After a brief break, AS announced they would watch TikToks featuring the group, where fans dressed up as them and created short videos. Shigaraki expressed his disdain for one of the characters, and AS snapped their fingers to bring Shinso into the room. Ida declared that as class president, he must set a great example, while Shigaraki reacted incredulously to Toga's antics. Laughter erupted when AS mentioned villain Todoroki, and everyone was puzzled by a red-haired character alongside Dabi. A moment of understanding passed between Todoroki and Dabi, with silent apologies exchanged. Uraraka asked about a character referred to as villain Deku, and Kurogyuri confirmed it was accurate. The group continued to react to various TikToks, with comments flying about dancing and humorous situations. Aizawa expressed his dislike for one of the characters, and the heroes agreed. Ida lectured Bakugo about the dangers of smoking, while the group laughed at the antics on screen. As the TikToks continued, everyone shared their thoughts and reactions, with moments of laughter and surprise. Midoriya was particularly taken aback when he noticed Bakugo smiling in one of the videos. AS concluded the segment, wrapping up the fun. In the next segment, AS explained that Midoriya would not need to leave this time, as they would be looking at pictures from a movie AU that depicted his life as if it were a film. The theater erupted in laughter at the images, with comments about how long it would take to create all of Midoriya's scars. Mina and Toga agreed on the absurdity. Izuku expressed his desire to have Kota as a brother, and Bakugo reminisced about a past event. Dabi commented on a quote, leading to more laughter as Kaminari playfully pointed out that he was gay. Uraraka mentioned forgetting her lines, and Momo complimented Bakugo for being nice to kids, to which he reacted defensively. As the group continued to share their thoughts on the images, they noted how strange their fights would look without special effects. Tsu suggested an unexpected twist involving Overhaul, and Izuku pondered the implications. AS announced that it was time to end the segment, and with a flash of light, Midoriya disappeared once more. The scene opens with a female Deku, Denki, and Kiri looking at Todoroki, Shinso, and Bakugo. Deku expressed uncertainty about the title, while Uraraka commented on it. The group shared playful banter, with Deku singing about the hunger she felt when love was mentioned. Kami joined in, teasing Shinso, while Kiri made a cheeky remark about her feelings for Bakugo. All Might, observing the group, asked if they were cannibals, to which the response was a light-hearted confirmation. The scene shifted to Midoriya walking down an alley, looking a bit disheveled. She sang about her appetite for boys, followed by Kaminari in another alley, echoing a similar sentiment. The screen split to show both girls, emphasizing their playful yet mischievous nature. Kirishima then appeared, also with a playful warning to boys to run. The girls formed a triangle formation, with Midoriya leading, as they chanted about being cannibals in a catchy rhythm. The atmosphere shifted to a darker setting with Midoriya and Todoroki. Midoriya, holding a prop that resembled a knife, approached Todoroki, singing about the intensity of her feelings. Kaminari mirrored this with Shinso, and Kiri did the same with Bakugo, all while maintaining a playful tone. The scene returned to Deku in the alley, reiterating her earlier song, followed by Denki. The split screen returned, showcasing the girls again. As they regrouped in their triangle formation, they continued their catchy chant, each girl contributing to the playful energy. The visuals transitioned to darkness, with each girl appearing one by one, singing a catchy refrain. They united for a final chorus, celebrating their bond and playful nature. The scene concluded with Todoroki wrapping his arm around Midoriya's waist, Shinso and Kaminari holding hands, and Bakugo hugging Kirishima from behind, all of them smiling. In a subtle moment, Shinso and Denki cuddled, while Bakugo and Kirishima held hands, and Todoroki nestled close to Midoriya, all enjoying the warmth of friendship. The group gathered, ready to explore more of the movie alternate universe, as the enthusiastic author prompted them to begin. Kaminari expressed concern for Shinso's health, noting that his habits might not be the best. Shinso reassured him that he was getting enough sleep. Shiro, surprised, discovered that Shinso and Kaminari were dating, prompting a collective look of disbelief from the others. Ojiro gasped, worried about Tokoyami's fate, only to learn that in this universe, Tokoyami's bird head was merely a mask. A wave of relief washed over the group. Midoriya chuckled at Uraraka's expense, and even she joined in the laughter. Bakugo teased Midoriya about his dorky behavior, while Kirishima urged him to be kind. Midoriya's unexpected use of strong language shocked Kaminari, who turned to Uraraka, placing the blame on Bakugo. The atmosphere was light-hearted as Mina exclaimed in frustration about her horns, leading to a playful challenge between her and Kirishima. Their attempt at lifting each other ended in a humorous tumble, drawing laughter from everyone. Midoriya commented on Dabi's appearance without his scars, noting how striking he looked. Kaminari remarked on how different Dabi seemed without the effects of his explosions, to which Dabi expressed his gratitude. As they reminisced about the sports festival, Todoroki clung to Midoriya, not wanting him to leave for the next segment. The author announced a new idea, a collage of pictures featuring female counterparts of some favorite characters. All Might was curious if they were all female, and the author confirmed that these were just personal favorites. The first image was of Midoriya, prompting compliments from Mina and Uraraka about her hair and makeup. Next was Shinso, who received praise for her beauty. Denki, feeling bold, complimented his boyfriend, leading to a discussion about his own appearance, which included a playful twist on his hair color. Ida was surprised to find himself among the favorites, and the author explained the classy look chosen for him. Bakugo was thrilled to be a favorite as well, and the group admired the makeup on Kirishima, who received a heartfelt compliment from Bakugo. Todoroki's image drew admiration from Midoriya, who found it elegant. The author prepared to reveal a surprising choice next, which turned out to be Mineta, leading to a light-hearted discussion about their shared traits. Kirishima expressed affection for his friend, while Shiro appreciated his own depiction. The author then showcased Koda, who shyly thanked them for the portrayal. The final image was of a Class B student, sparking a playful debate about his quirk and appearance. The author revealed their favorite pro-hero, Aizawa, which surprised the group. Aizawa complimented the author's work, and they shared a moment of appreciation. The excitement continued as the author prepared to conclude the session, but Todoroki looked disappointed at the prospect of Midoriya leaving. The author suggested a way for Midoriya to stay, requiring a small blood sample to proceed. Midoriya willingly offered a drop, and the author assured him it wouldn't hurt. With the sample collected, they moved on to the next segment, eager to see what awaited them. The author encouraged feedback and suggestions for future chapters, inviting the group to share their thoughts on characters and styles they wanted to see next. The atmosphere was filled with camaraderie and anticipation for more adventures to come. This collection features a series of short stories highlighting the times Midoriya found himself in unexpected situations. Uraraka inquired if all the stories were true, to which Midoriya confirmed they had indeed occurred in their world. All Might then asked his successor if such incidents happened often. Midoriya admitted that it occurred more frequently than it should. With that, they decided to begin. Midoriya was hurrying to the classroom during lunch to retrieve his notebook, anxious about missing out on lunch. He entered without knocking, only to be taken aback by the sight of Mr. Aizawa pinned against the wall by Present Mike, both without shirts. He stood frozen for a moment before screaming and fleeing, completely forgetting about his notebook. Once in the cafeteria, he sat down, still wide-eyed and shocked. Uraraka noticed and asked if he was okay. Midoriya stammered that he was fine, just a little shaken up. After lunch, he found it difficult to look at Mr. Aizawa for the rest of the day, grateful that it was Friday. Uraraka reminded everyone that this incident had happened the previous week, prompting Kaminari to laugh in disbelief. Midoriya apologized to Mr. Aizawa, who responded with a tired acknowledgement. In another instance, Midoriya went to borrow notes from Kirishima. After knocking on his dorm room door and receiving no answer, he peeked inside and found it empty. Assuming Kirishima was in Kaken's room, he knocked there and was invited in. To his surprise, he found a shirtless, sweating Kirishima sitting on Kaken's bed, a large lump in his lap. Kirishima greeted him and offered his bag for the notes, albeit a bit awkwardly. As Midoriya took the bag and left, he overheard Kirishima mutter about nearly getting caught, leading him to realize what the lump was. Later, Aizawa addressed the boys sternly. Bakugo protested, pointing out that at least he and Kaken had been in a private space. Aizawa sighed, acknowledging the point. Midoriya then headed to Todoroki's room for something. Upon nearing the door, he heard movement and assumed Todoroki was inside. He entered without hesitation, only to be shocked by the sight of Dabi from the League of Villains holding Endeavor's credit card. Dabi quickly told him not to mention what he saw before jumping out the window. Midoriya shrugged it off, thinking it wasn't worth reporting, as nothing appeared to be missing. When the class learned of this encounter, they expressed surprise. Midoriya explained that since nothing important was taken and no one was harmed, he didn't think it necessary to inform anyone. Dabi, surprisingly grateful, thanked him. With that, Midoriya concluded that was the last story he had to share, leaving the group curious about what might come next. The author had a sudden surge of free time due to school being cancelled for the rest of the year. They were eager to know what readers wanted for the next chapter and promised to do their best to deliver. In a dimly lit room, a character entered, holding a tablet connected to the theater screen. They announced that only a select few would be present for this particular event. With a flick of their wrist, Todoroki, Deku, Dabi, Fuyumi, Natsuo, Rei, and Endeavor were teleported into another room. The character displayed a picture on the big screen, prompting everyone to nod in recognition. Dabi felt a sense of dread wash over him, sensing that something troubling was about to unfold. As the character continued, Dabi began to sweat, fully aware of the implications of what was being revealed. Todoroki looked down, sadness evident on his face, while Deku offered him a reassuring smile and held his hand. The character explained that they would show some pictures for everyone to discuss afterward. As the images flashed on the screen, Todoroki's mind raced with disbelief, while Dabi panicked, fearing exposure. Thoughts raced through Todoroki's head, contemplating the similarities between them. The character decided to leave them to their discussion, promising to return only if things turned aggressive. As the screen went dark, they slipped behind a curtain nearby. Silence enveloped the family as they processed the shocking revelations. Todoroki's voice trembled as he asked if the information was true. Dabi sighed, confirming it. Todoroki's eyes glistened with tears as he questioned why Dabi hadn't come home or shared the truth. Dabi expressed his regret, explaining the fear of returning home due to his troubled past and the potential consequences. He revealed that he had taken a job with the League of Villains to keep an eye on Todoroki, who was now growing up and attending high school. Tears streamed down his face as he spoke, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Unexpectedly, Dabi found himself enveloped in a warm hug from his mother, whom he hadn't seen since a traumatic incident involving his father. As she comforted him, she reassured him that no one blamed him for the path he had taken. The nickname she used brought forth a flood of emotions, and Dabi clung to her, overwhelmed by the moment. Rei expressed her unconditional love for him, and soon everyone except Midoriya joined in the embrace. Midoriya, capturing the moment with a photo, commented on the heartwarming scene. Endeavor, filled with remorse, apologized for his past actions and vowed to become a better father and person. He acknowledged the pain he had caused and asked for a chance to prove himself. Fuyumi stepped forward, acknowledging the past but expressing her desire to move forward for the sake of their family. She believed in the possibility of healing and happiness. Natsuo echoed her sentiments, expressing hope for change over time. Dabi, still processing his emotions, admitted he needed time but was willing to try. Endeavor expressed gratitude for their willingness to work toward reconciliation. When Endeavor turned to Shoto, he found his son struggling with the weight of past grievances. Midoriya offered comfort, assuring Shoto that things would improve with time. Endeavor, surprisingly supportive, accepted Shoto's relationship with Midoriya, leading to a moment of relief and gratitude between father and son. The character re-entered the room, asking if everyone was ready to return. They reminded the group to keep the revelations a secret as they teleported back to the theater, leaving behind a moment of hope for healing and understanding. It was a normal day in Aizawa's class. Everyone was paying attention and writing notes, while the meme lords whispered to each other. Surprisingly, Aizawa was teaching instead of napping. Suddenly, everything changed when the lights went out. Panic spread through the room as some students activated their quirks, including Aizawa and Bakugo. Todoroki created a small flame in his hands to provide light, but it was quickly extinguished by an unknown force. Fog-like smoke began to fill the room, accompanied by an ominous green light that no one could identify. An eerie laugh echoed throughout the space. Uraraka wondered if it was a villain attack, prompting Aizawa to instruct everyone to get behind him just in case. Bakugo confidently declared that they could handle whoever it was, creating small explosions in his hands for emphasis. Just then, the lights flickered back on, revealing a figure standing where Aizawa had been, facing away from them. Aizawa demanded to know who the figure was and what they wanted. The figure turned around with a sweet smile and asked if they had missed her. The class erupted in excitement, recognizing her as the author, and some rushed forward to give her a hug. The author explained that she knew they had all been stressed, even Aizawa, and announced that she was taking them back to the theater for a break. She mentioned needing a sample from Izuku so he could stay with Todoroki, and without further ado, everything began to spin. Soon, they found themselves in a theater filled with familiar faces, including Shinso, Endeavor, Hawks, the League of Villains, All Might, and Present Mike. As everyone admired the theater, the author asked if they liked it. The girls expressed their approval, and she instructed them to take their seats as she headed to the projector room. Through the speakers, she announced that she had a different setup and would be communicating with them that way. With excitement in the air, the author began the first segment of their reactions. She thanked a fan for the idea and announced they would start with Cursed Ships. The first pairing was Todoroki and Mineta, prompting laughter and disgust from the audience. Mineta made a comment that caught Midoriya's attention, leading him to confront Mineta with a swift action that left the latter against the wall, seemingly unfazed by the encounter. The author moved on to the next pairing, which elicited more reactions of disbelief and humor. Bakugo expressed his disdain for one pairing, while others chimed in with their opinions. The author noted that some relationships could be seen as adorable in a father-son context, but not as romantic ones. As the reactions continued, the author decided to switch gears to more traditional ships. The first was a classic pairing of Todoroki and Midoriya, which drew a chorus of "ah" from the audience. Midoriya snuggled closer to Todoroki, who wore a small smile. The next pairing, Okadeku, also received positive reactions, though Denki pointed out that it would be cuter if Midoriya wasn't already dating someone. As the author introduced the next pairing, Bakugo's loud protest filled the room, signaling that the reactions were far from over. Midoriya was uncertain about much, only knowing what he had been told, so he repeated it back. The reaction was immediate. His classmates were shocked. Ida, as class representative, reminded Midoriya that swearing was inappropriate, gesturing emphatically. Bakugo, somewhat proud of Midoriya, dismissed Ida's concerns with a sharp retort. In a different conversation, a character named M was discussing a budget issue with Dabi. M expressed confusion over a recent email stating the budget was only $10,000 instead of the expected $15. M explained that they had made adjustments to the budget, reducing it from $16,200 to $14,700, and had sent out the revised figure. Dabi insisted that the budget was now set at $10,000, leading to a humorous exchange where Denki laughed at the situation. M was focused on the task at hand, trying to maintain composure despite the chaos. Dabi questioned whether Kurojairi had approved the budget. M reassured him that Kurojairi had looked it over, and even Midnight had given it the green light. However, Dabi remained adamant that the budget was still $10. Mina chimed in, surprised to learn that Midoriya sometimes swore, to which he admitted it happened mostly when he was angry. Kirishima noted that it was understandable given Midoriya's friendship with Bakugo, who was known for his colorful language. Midoriya reflected on the situation, noting that Dabi seemed unaware of the ongoing issues and hadn't consulted Kurojairi or Midnight. Dabi suggested they wait until M returned home to check the email and call Kurojairi, but M insisted that Kurojairi was more knowledgeable and should be contacted immediately. The scene shifted back to Midoriya on stage, feeling a rush of excitement as he realized a small business in New York was struggling over a $5,000 discrepancy. The audience responded with applause and cheers. Later, Midoriya returned to the dorms, eager to share the news with friends. He decided to save the number of a random guy he had spoken to, thinking he would check in later. A montage of Midoriya engaging in various activities flashed on the screen, showcasing his everyday life. Days passed without incident until Midoriya received a phone call from the saved number. Confused, he wondered who this random guy was. He felt a mix of anxiety and determination, knowing that he had started this situation and needed to see it through. He put in his earbuds for some distance and answered the call. Dabi was on the line, referring to him as Kurojiri, which caught Midoriya off guard. Dabi mentioned a conference call with Mr. Compress and Toga, and Midoriya braced himself for the conversation. He greeted them as if welcoming them to a show, ready to navigate the lies they were all telling. Toga asked about the time, and Midoriya quickly calculated the difference, responding with the correct time for New York. As the conversation continued, Toga grew suspicious, questioning whether he truly was Kurojiri. Midoriya played along, trying to maintain the facade while the tension built. When Toga pressed him further, Midoriya decided to turn the tables, asking about the budget instead. The scene faded to black, accompanied by the sounds of laughter and applause. Back in the dorms, Mina expressed her amazement at Midoriya's story, while Jiru questioned its authenticity. Midoriya clarified that while it wasn't exactly as he described, it was close enough to capture the essence of the situation. They had taken my laptop for a while because my brothers sometimes used it to play games. That's why I hadn't been posting since those first 3 chapters. However, while my parents were out, I would sneak in some writing, and I managed to come up with a few new chapters, so expect 3 more soon. Also, feel free to share any ideas you would like to see. Chapter end. Warning: Uwu angst. Warning. Warning: mentions of self-harm and suicide. Warning. If you are not comfortable with these themes, please skip this chapter. Warning: nice Bakugo. Warning. Hints. Words. Word. Thinking. Action. It all began when Izuku was 4 years old, the moment he discovered he was quirkless. That was when his struggles truly started. When his father learned he had a quirkless son, he left. Izuku's mother told everyone he was abroad to avoid answering questions. Sometimes, she would become upset with his father for leaving and would turn to drinking, which led to her becoming aggressive. Izuku didn't blame her, he felt like a useless burden. Mina expressed disbelief, saying that Deku had a great quirk. The author explained that while everyone thought Deku was quirkless, his quirk developed later to protect him from potential harm. Tsu asked if that was why Deku had broken his bones so often, to which the author confirmed. Uraraka questioned Izuku, asking if he truly felt that way. He nervously reassured them that he was fine, insisting this was a different world. Bakugo thought to himself that Izuku was not being truthful. When Bakugo received his quirk, he became the star of the school, adored by everyone. However, once word spread that Izuku was quirkless, he faced hostility from his peers, except for Kaken, who stood by him and helped fend off the bullies. Izuku reflected that Kaken had actually been one of his main tormentors, but the author reminded him that this was a different world. As they transitioned to middle school, things worsened. Izuku sat at his desk, doodling in his notebook as the teacher announced the end of the year and handed out application ideas. The students began showcasing their quirks. Aizawa mumbled that the teacher was not very good. Bakugo, with his usual bravado, declared that he would be the greatest hero and that it all started with UA High. The other students whispered about his ambitions, questioning if he would even make it into the national school. Bakugo, overhearing their comments, shouted at them to be quiet, defending Izuku and insisting that he would succeed despite being quirkless. Uraraka supported Bakugo's defense of Deku, while Tsu expressed confusion about the author's statement that Bakugo had bullied Izuku in their original world. Kirishima pointed out that Bakugo was improving and becoming nicer to Izuku, and everyone agreed. Time passed, and they found themselves at UA. Shinso invited everyone in class to a party with Class 1B. Initially hesitant, Izuku decided to attend after Todoroki mentioned he would go. The party was enjoyable with no alcohol, just juice, soda, and water. Aizawa expressed relief, while Kaminari noted that Ida would never allow anyone to drink. Ida began lecturing about the dangers of underage drinking, but Izuku interrupted, asking him to stop so they could move on. Izuku was having a great time, making new friends, including Shinso, while secretly hoping to bring Shinso and Kaminari together. However, his plans took a turn when Shinso asked to take a picture. Izuku smiled and posed, But as Shinso snapped the photo, he heard Izuku quietly say something troubling. Shinso, using his quirk, asked what Izuku meant, but Izuku's response was alarming. Shocked, Shinso lost focus, causing Izuku to flee the party, leaving everyone concerned about his well-being. Shinso felt a sense of urgency as he searched for Todoroki. When he finally found him, he quickly relayed what had happened. Without hesitation, Todoroki rushed to Deku's room, where he discovered Izuku on the floor, his arms injured. Todoroki's heart sank as he cried out for Izuku, filled with dread. Uraraka, standing nearby, expressed her concern, hoping that they had arrived in time. Midoriya was sobbing, and Todoroki, equally distressed, comforted him. Todoroki checked for a pulse and was relieved to find a faint one. He quickly bandaged Deku's arms and rushed him to Recovery Girl, who healed him and arranged for therapy. Reflecting on the past, Shinso thought about how he had come a long way since then. He had spent his time at UA in therapy, supported by amazing friends. Although he hadn't stopped his harmful behavior immediately after his first session, things gradually improved with the help of friends, family, and teachers. Now, he felt grateful that he had people to talk to whenever he was feeling down. All Might expressed his relief that the story had a happy ending. However, the atmosphere shifted as he hinted that this universe wasn't finished yet. Hagakure asked for clarification, and All Might posed questions about what could have happened if Todoroki hadn't arrived in time or if Izuku had locked his door. Before Uraraka could respond, the scene shifted to a black screen labeled Alternate Ending. Shinso approached Midoriya, asking if he could take a picture. Deku agreed, smiling and holding up a peace sign. As Shinso snapped the photo, he heard Midoriya mumble something under his breath about being gone by dawn, which sent a chill down his spine. Concerned, Shinso used his quirk to probe deeper, but Deku's words were haunting. In shock, Shinso lost focus, allowing Deku to slip away from the party. Determined to find Todoroki, Shinso searched until he found him and explained the situation. Without thinking, Todoroki froze the locked door and kicked it in. Inside, he found Deku on the floor, his arms injured. Despair washed over Todoroki as he cried out for Izuku. Mina questioned if this was the same scenario they had just witnessed. Todoroki checked for a pulse but found none. He attempted CPR, but it was clear that Izuku was beyond help. Uraraka covered her mouth in shock, tears welling in her eyes. Toga expressed her distress, wishing for a different outcome. Unfortunately, the narrator explained that they couldn't interfere with the universes, but promised to show them what was happening now in that timeline. Izuku Midoriya's funeral became one of the saddest days for Class 1A. Aizawa canceled classes to allow everyone to mourn together in the dorms. The entire class attended, tears flowing freely, especially from Bakugo, who felt guilt for not noticing his best friend's struggles. Despite his pain, he knew that no one could have seen it coming. Izuku had been skilled at hiding his feelings. As the sadness lingered, the narrator asked if the class wanted to see what was happening now. Everyone eagerly agreed. The screen flickered to life, revealing Midoriya's grave and someone approaching it. As the figure came into focus, it was Bakugo, dressed in his hero suit but without his mask or gauntlets. He had a new, undercut hairstyle, with an X shaved into the side. Kirishima commented on Bakugo's new look, suggesting he should keep it. Bakugo, however, was more focused on the task at hand. Kneeling in front of Izuku's grave, Bakugo spoke softly, sharing his achievements and regrets. He wished Izuku could be there to celebrate with him, reminiscing about their dreams of becoming partners in the future. With a sad chuckle, he revealed his plans to propose to Kirishima that night, hoping for a positive response. As Bakugo stood to leave, a mist began to form beside the grave, revealing a faint image of Deku. He whispered a heartfelt message, wishing Bakugo good luck. The screen then flickered off, leaving the room in a reflective silence. The girls expressed their delight at the touching moment, while Bakugo, slightly annoyed, urged them to move on. The scene opened in a store's hair dye section, where Kirishima held a box of red dye, scanning the aisle. At the other end, Dabi approached, holding a box of black dye, oblivious to Kirishima's presence. As Kirishima turned, he accidentally bumped into Dabi and looked up in surprise, recognizing him. They both stepped back awkwardly, then quickly darted in opposite directions. The room erupted in laughter at the awkward encounter. Midoriya, still chuckling, asked if that really happened. Kirishima, rubbing his neck in embarrassment, confirmed it did. The scene shifted to a Starbucks, where Bakugo was ordering. He requested a large black coffee, but the barista seemed confused. When she asked if he meant a venti, Bakugo's annoyance grew. Midoriya intervened, trying to defuse the situation, explaining that venti was indeed the largest size. Bakugo, frustrated, pointed out the absurdity of the naming conventions, emphasizing that simple terms like small, medium, and large would suffice. The scene ended with Midoriya face-palming as the screen faded to black. Midoriya expressed his discontent with Bakugo's outburst, but Bakugo insisted that if the barista was going to do her job, she should do it correctly. The next scene featured Midoriya in middle school, answering questions from his teacher. When asked about the fall of the Berlin Wall, he confidently stated the year, impressing his classmates. The teacher continued to quiz him on various historical events, and Midoriya answered each one correctly, even correcting the teacher on the end date of the Korean War. The class erupted in applause for him as the screen faded to black. Uraraka praised Midoriya for his knowledge, while others expressed their surprise at his intelligence. The final segment began with Bakugo attempting to calm himself, taking deep breaths. Kirishima approached him, took his hands, and began to sing softly. Bakugo joined in, and the scene radiated warmth and camaraderie before abruptly cutting out. Kaminari found the moment adorable, but Bakugo dismissed him with a playful retort. The narrator encouraged viewers to leave comments if they wanted a sequel. The narrative then shifted to a day when Midoriya's father announced he would be visiting. Midoriya, accompanied by Todoroki, approached Bakugo, who was cuddling Kirishima. Midoriya informed Bakugo of his father's impending arrival, prompting Bakugo to spring into action, warning everyone to remain silent about the situation. Curiosity piqued, the group wondered what was so troubling about Midoriya's dad. As they prepared for the visit, Bakugo took Midoriya's hand just before the door opened. Mr. Midoriya entered, greeting the boys with a smile. Bakugo led him into the kitchen, while Midoriya signaled for silence to the rest of the class. Aizawa questioned the tension, and Midoriya wondered if his father could be as intimidating as he feared. Mr. Midoriya inquired about their friendship, and Bakugo assured him that everything was going well. Midoriya echoed this sentiment, sharing details about their friendships and hero internships. Mr. Midoriya's comment about inviting more people to their wedding left Class 1A in shock. The class erupted in surprise at the mention of a wedding. Midoriya felt a wave of sadness wash over him, realizing his fears were confirmed. Bakugo expressed his anger, calling the situation outrageous. Todoroki, confused, asked what was happening, prompting Midoriya to hesitantly suggest they just watch. As the class speculated about the wedding, questions flew around. Mina wondered what it meant, while Hagakure asked if they were truly getting married. Kirishima felt disheartened, questioning if they had been deceived. Kaminari reassured Kirishima, reminding him that they wouldn't play with their feelings. Todoroki, frustrated, questioned why they were still with the class if they were getting married. Uraraka defended Midoriya, insisting he wouldn't betray them. Midoriya, feeling the weight of the situation, expressed his sadness, and Todoroki fell silent, looking down. Midoriya then moved away, seeking comfort from Kaminari and Shinso. Kaminari offered a hug, encouraging him to watch the rest of the event. The room fell silent as the two boys and a man approached the door. Mr. Midoriya announced he would check in with them in a month, and with that he left, closing the door behind him. Overwhelmed, Midoriya broke down in tears, expressing his reluctance to marry, as he loved Shoto. Bakugo comforted him, acknowledging the unfairness of the situation and promising they would find a way out. Hearing Midoriya's cries, Todoroki approached, concerned. Midoriya ran into his arms, crying even harder. Bakugo suggested they explain everything to the others in the next room. Ida, curious, asked what was wrong, and Bakugo calmly assured everyone they would explain. Kirishima inquired about the marriage, and Bakugo revealed that Midoriya's father was forcing them into it. Momo questioned the reasoning behind it, and Midoriya explained that his father believed strong offspring would come from their union, thinking it would lead to powerful children. Aizawa reacted with outrage, condemning the father's selfish motives. Shigaraki echoed the sentiment, noting the injustice of the situation. Uraraka felt guilty for doubting Midoriya's intentions. Mina pointed out the impossibility of two boys having children, but Midoriya clarified that his father knew someone in the UK with a quirk that could help. This person worked with couples who wanted children but couldn't adopt. Midoriya expressed his frustration about his father's plans, revealing that he intended to send them to the UK after graduation. Kaminari and Kirishima voiced their disapproval, calling the situation unfair. Uraraka encouraged Midoriya to express his feelings, but Bakugo warned that his father would retaliate harshly. Midoriya shared his fear of losing his mother if he defied his father. Bakugo reassured him that they would figure it out together, just like they always did. As the story concluded, Toga expressed disappointment that there was no more, while Mina wished to know what happened next. The idea of asking the audience for a part 2 was floated, and Shiro, confused, wondered what Toga was looking at. Kaminari shrugged, still holding a sleeping Midoriya in his arms. More memes were shouted enthusiastically by the group. The excitement in the air was palpable as they prepared to dive into the fun. The girls expressed their love for starbursts, while Ida revealed his preference for white chocolate. Everyone joined in a cheerful chorus, exclaiming how cute everything was, causing the boy with the tail to blush. Ida, with his serious demeanor, declared his duty as class president to protect his classmates, punctuating his words with hand motions. Bakugo, ever the provocateur, dismissed him with a sarcastic remark, while the others reacted with a mix of laughter and disbelief. Todoroki, with his usual calmness, found humor in the situation, though Uraraka pointed out that it wasn't particularly funny. Bakugo's laughter echoed through the room, declaring it the funniest thing he had ever seen. Midoriya, feeling overwhelmed, expressed his disdain for both Bakugo and Todoroki's antics, while Shigaraki humorously claimed his role as the main villain. Mineta's shout broke through the laughter, adding to the chaotic atmosphere. Midoriya, feeling a bit anxious, noted how scary Bakugo could be, to which Bakugo retorted that he wasn't scary at all. The group collectively disagreed, affirming Bakugo's reputation. Mina praised Shiro for his contributions, and Shiro excitedly announced his role as the flower girl. Kaminari chimed in, expressing his enthusiasm for being a bridesmaid. In a quieter moment, Bakugo whispered his agreement, which Kirishima caught, leading to a shared moment of camaraderie. As the gathering came to a close, the girl addressed the audience, revealing that it was time for them to return to their world. She explained that the time had run out, and their world wouldn't be frozen for much longer. The class expressed their sadness, with Uraraka rushing to hug her, followed by the rest of the group. She reassured them that she would always be watching over them, even if they couldn't see her. With a heavy heart, she created portals for everyone to step through, bidding farewell as they waved, some with tears in their eyes. Once back home, the girl sighed, waking up in her bed, feeling as though it had all been a dream, though she knew it wasn't. Her mother called her for dinner, and as she made her way to the dining room, she held onto the hope of seeing her friends again. The story had officially come to an end, but the girl felt a longing to write again. She announced a new story titled BNHA Boyfriend Scenarios, inviting her readers to check it out soon. As she reflected on the characters and their journeys, she wondered what might happen if Midoriya's father discovered the truth about Deku and Bakugo. Would Midoriya and Todoroki ever reconcile? The possibilities were endless, leaving the audience eager for more adventures in the future. The scene opened with Deku sitting on his balcony, holding a white sweater as he began to sing. He reminisced about the 3rd of December, recalling when Todoroki had given him the sweater because he was shivering. He thought about how Todoroki had said it looked better on him, unaware of the depth of Deku's feelings. As he sang, Momo walked by, and Todoroki gazed at her with admiration, commenting on her beauty. Deku felt a pang of sadness, wishing he could be the one receiving that kind of attention. Uraraka expressed her disappointment in Todoroki's actions, while Kirishima shook his head in disapproval. Todoroki tried to defend himself, but Bakugo interrupted, telling him to be quiet as he picked up Midoriya, who was sitting next to Kaminari, and sat him on his lap. The scene shifted to Midoriya in his dorm room, tears streaming down his face as he questioned why Todoroki would ever kiss him, feeling inadequate compared to Momo. A flashback revealed Todoroki giving Momo his favorite sweater, which only deepened Midoriya's heartache. He wished he could be more like Momo as he retreated to his room. The next day, everyone gathered in the common room, where Todoroki and Momo chatted with their friends. Midoriya stood alone, feeling the weight of his emotions as he watched them. Momo approached him, expressing concern for his well-being after a training injury, but he coldly dismissed her. He grappled with his feelings, torn between hating her and recognizing her kindness. As he ranted to Bakugo and Kirishima in Bakugo's dorm, he expressed his pain over Todoroki's actions, feeling overshadowed by Momo. Bakugo and Kirishima comforted him, assuring him they were there for him. Images flashed through his mind of happier moments with Todoroki, only to be replaced by the painful reality of his current situation. Midoriya then made his way to the roof, singing about his heartache. As he leaned over the edge, he lost his balance but was caught by Bakugo, who pulled him back and held him tightly. Overwhelmed with emotion, Midoriya broke down, confessing his feelings for Todoroki. Bakugo reassured him, suggesting they go get katsudon and ice cream. Meanwhile, Todoroki confronted Midoriya, apologizing for his actions. Midoriya, however, remained stoic, questioning the sincerity of Todoroki's apology. He expressed his hurt, revealing that he felt their relationship was over. As he took off his promise ring and handed it back to Todoroki, he made it clear that he no longer needed it. He suggested that Todoroki give it to Momo instead, indicating that he believed Todoroki preferred her. After a moment of silence, Todoroki sat back down, playing with the promise ring in disbelief, realizing the gravity of what he had lost. Promise ring. The group was excitedly preparing for another movie-themed adventure, and snacks were ready as they gathered together. Uraraka admired Mr. Aizawa, commenting on how good he looked in his suit. Mina chuckled, agreeing that it was surprising to see him so polished. Hisashi playfully complimented Aizawa, suggesting he should show off his suit more often, while jokingly giving him a friendly nudge. As the conversation shifted, Mina mused about how long it would take to turn all her skin pink if they were to use body paint. Dabi, touching his scars, remarked on the difficulty of washing off all the paint. Midoriya leaned over to Uraraka, questioning if they were bonding over body paint, to which she confirmed with a nod. The group shared a laugh at Hawk's expense, imagining how challenging it would be for him to film flying scenes. Dabi reassured Hawks, who was pouting, that they were just joking about his role, not making fun of him. The atmosphere turned playful as Kaminari and Siro bowed before Bakugo, declaring him their lord. Momo joined in the fun by giving Kirishima a fake crown to place on Bakugo's head, and the Bakugo squad cheered in unison. Midoriya, confused, asked what was happening, while Uraraka simply shrugged, admitting she didn't know either. Shigaraki expressed his discomfort with the antics, while Aizawa humorously wished for a job trade, sinking deeper into his sleeping bag. Curiosity arose when Tsu asked about a particular moment, prompting Midoriya to recall when they saved Bakugo. Momo confirmed his memory, and Jiro expressed surprise that they had rescued Bakugo from the League of Villains. Midoriya proudly recounted the rescue mission, though Todoroki felt a twinge of sadness for not being addressed by his nickname. Mina laughed at Kirishima's reaction, while Bakugo shrugged, acknowledging the truth in Midoriya's story. Aizawa found humor in the situation, and All Might joined in, appreciating the playful banter. Toga laughed at Shigaraki's appearance in a picture, and he jokingly flipped his hair, declaring himself beautiful. Twice teased him, calling him ugly, while Aoyama made a grand entrance, prompting a surprised reaction from Hagakure. Aoyama playfully questioned how anyone could forget him, and the group moved on to the next topic. Kirishima expressed excitement over seeing two versions of himself in a photo, only for Mina to clarify that one was his stunt double. Bakugo facepalmed at the exchange, while Mina commented on how cute it was that Midoriya was helping with makeup. As the conversation continued, Hisashi joked about the similarities between fathers and sons, prompting Aizawa to dismiss him. Kirishima wondered how long a particular scene would take to film, and Bakugo bluntly stated it would be too long. Kirishima, with a hint of sadness, asked if Bakugo wouldn't want to hold hands for 5 hours, to which Bakugo clarified that he simply wanted to go home eventually. With that, they wrapped up their discussion for the moment, leaving the door open for more adventures in the future. The internet had been down all week and the computer only worked when connected to Wi-Fi. The author felt frustrated, eager to update the story with many new ideas. Now that the internet was back, they planned to post more than 3 chapters to make up for the lost time. They also considered hosting a Q&A session to help readers get to know them better, as they felt the audience only knew them as a girl. Readers were invited to leave questions in the comments if they were interested, but it was entirely optional. As the story continued, the characters gathered to discuss more female counterparts, most of whom were villains. The atmosphere was light-hearted, with excitement buzzing in the air. The first character presented was Shoji, and the girls complimented his shirt, shiny nails, necklace, and shoes. Denki remarked on the girls' quirks, finding them amusing. Next, they moved on to the pro heroes, starting with All Might, who praised the young hero's work. Deku, still trying to lift his spirits, complimented the makeup. Fatgum was next, and Kirishima shared his experience in turning with him, highlighting Fatgum's kindness. Hawks received playful teasing from Dabi, who remarked on his appearance. Hawks responded with a light-hearted suggestion about dressing up for Dabi. The mood shifted as they introduced Endeavor, whose striking look drew compliments from the group. Small Might acknowledged Endeavor's appearance, and the hero seemed surprised by the praise. As they transitioned to a more somber topic, the atmosphere grew heavy. Midoriya felt emotional, prompting Bakugo to comfort him. The group reflected on memories, with All Might shedding a few tears. The intention was to honor someone special, and the heartfelt gesture was appreciated. With emotions still lingering, they moved on to the villains, starting with Shigaraki, who received an enthusiastic compliment from Toga. He responded with embarrassment, and a playful warning about his behavior followed. Kurogiri observed the interactions with a sense of exasperation, feeling like a babysitter among the younger characters. Twice was introduced next, and while Toga complimented him, Twice humorously dismissed her praise. Finally, the anticipation built as they prepared to reveal Dabi, leaving everyone eager for what was to come next. Hawks commented on how good Dabi looked as a girl, prompting Dabi to retort sharply. Before the banter could escalate, the narrator interjected, moving on to the next character, Overhaul. They had made Overhaul appear more sophisticated, which drew a laugh from Toga, who remarked on the irony of his lack of hands. Shigaraki almost laughed at Toga's joke, while the group continued to discuss the next character, Mustard, who had previously created toxic gas at a camp. Mom, recalled the effort it took to make gas masks for that situation. Shigaraki noted that Mustard had been a great ally, and Toga reminisced about their fun times together. Twice chimed in with a playful jab about Mustard's gaming skills. The final character revealed was AFO, who Shigaraki remarked looked strange as a girl, to which AFO responded with confidence. The narrator then announced that they would be looking at photos on their phone, connecting it to the theater screen. The group laughed at the first image, with Bakugo teasing the narrator about their friends. The atmosphere lightened as Kaminari reacted humorously to the next photo, and Aizawa and Midoriya agreed on its accuracy. Endeavor shared a memory of a villain's comment, which elicited a collective gross from the audience. The next image was from a villain Deku Au, prompting Shigaraki to express his discontent, while Toga echoed the sentiment of ungratefulness. Midoriya and Kaminari began to sniffle at a joke about a chicken, leading Shinso to check on them. Denki reassured Kaminari that everything was fine, and the narrator concluded the segment. Next, the narrator decided to explore the thoughts of Midoriya while he was unconscious, still resting in Bakugo's lap. Bakugo expressed his confusion, while Kirishima found it amusing. The class reacted dramatically to the situation. The narrator shared that some of Midoriya's thoughts were sad, revealing a moment of reflection he had after watching a movie. Uraraka sympathized with him, and Bakugo pointed out that Todoroki was the subject of Midoriya's thoughts. The narrator continued with a few more somber thoughts from Midoriya and others, highlighting their concern for him. Shigaraki noted how sad Midoriya seemed, and the narrator shifted the focus to happier thoughts. Kirishima complimented Kat, to which Bakugo blushed slightly. Aizawa chastised the trio for their Kit Kat eating habits and expressed disbelief that Todoroki had never tried one. The narrator then showcased drawings of students as girls, starting with Kaminari, who admired his own depiction. Kirishima's drawing was a favorite, garnering praise from Mina and admiration from Kirishima himself. The narrator shared that they had also drawn themselves, prompting a cute thought from Todoroki. Finally, they revealed Shinso and Bakugo's drawings, with Kaminari blushing at the sight of his own. The group shared laughs and playful comments, enjoying the light-hearted moment together. "All right, everyone, this is the wrong time part 2, someone announced. Midoriya felt a bead of sweat trickle down his forehead as he responded, "Oh no." Kirishima, on the other hand, was clearly excited, saying, "This ought to be good." While writing in his notebook, Midoriya heard screams coming from Tokoyami's room and decided to check on him to ensure everything was okay. What he found there would remain etched in his memory. Uraraka inquired, "Is this going to be another, I walked in on my friends in an awkward situation again?" "Not this time, just keep watching, it's funny," came the reply. In the center of a star symbol drawn on the floor, surrounded by candles, was Mineta, tied up. Tokoyami held a knife, while Jair was reading from a book, chanting something in a language Midoriya didn't understand. "What are you doing?" Midoriya asked, a hint of fear in his voice. "We're sacrificing Mineta so Shinso can take his place in class," Tokoyami explained, while Jairu continued her incantation. "Oh okay, well, have fun," Midoriya said, turning to leave. "Wait, no, Midoriya, help me," Mineta began, but Tokoyami quickly gagged him, silencing his pleas. Midoriya simply walked out, choosing not to dwell on it. "I still have the scar from that," Mineta mumbled later. Kaminari, visibly shocked, remarked, "Oh wow, that actually happened." "Yeah, I told you these things I show you have happened or are happening. Some just might not be in your universe," came the response. Uraraka expressed her surprise, saying, "I'm amazed Midoriya just left him there." Midoriya shrugged. "All right, next," the announcer said. The scene shifted to Deku walking down a dimly lit hallway, holding a bottle of lotion. He approached a door and opened it. "Hey Toga, did you use all of my—" He paused, his eyes widening at the sight before him. Dabi had Hawks pinned against the wall by his neck. Without a word, he closed the door and muttered, "That's not Toga." "Wait, why were you with the villains?" Uraraka asked, her curiosity piqued. "Isn't that when we kidnapped you?" Toga chimed in, tapping her chin thoughtfully. "Yeah, I think so," Deku replied nonchalantly. "What?" The class erupted in disbelief. "What do you mean kidnapped? You got kidnapped and didn't tell anyone? Why are you acting so calm about it?" "Because it wasn't that big of a deal, all they did was kidnap me so we could hang out. I wouldn't really call it kidnapping since I kind of just went with them," Deku explained with a shrug. Everyone stared at him, astonished by his casual demeanor. "Okay, next one," the announcer said, moving on. The narrator decided to end the segment there, having run out of ideas but wanting to share something with everyone. A promise of a part 3 was made, leaving the audience eager for more. The video began with Deku, who was recording himself with his phone. He smiled at the camera and explained that his classmates believed he was the perfect person to share secrets with, and he intended to reveal some of them. Midoriya felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him as he looked down. Mina, curious, asked who Deku would be exposing. He listed off names: Bakugo, Shinso, Denki, and Aizawa. The mentioned individuals reacted with surprise. Deku started with Shinso, adjusting his phone to show him sitting in a chair. He held up a notebook filled with information. He shared that Shinso had confided in him months ago about his feelings for Kaminari. He revealed that Shinso's favorite animal was cats. His favorite color was lavender purple, and he had a black cat named Nightmare. With a playful tone, Deku mentioned that Shinso's parents were Aizawa and Present Mike, causing a stir among the classmates. Uraraka was astonished by the revelation of Shinso's famous parents, while Shinso downplayed the significance of it. Deku moved on, and the screen displayed him again. He explained that he didn't have much information about Aizawa, mostly relying on present mic. He shared that Aizawa's favorite color was yellow, which surprised everyone since they expected black. He mentioned that Aizawa had 20 cats, each with their own room in his 3-story house, with the 3rd floor dedicated solely to the cats. He recounted a humorous moment when a reporter asked Aizawa about his children, to which Aizawa had responded with a clever remark about the different types of parenthood. The class erupted in disbelief upon learning that Aizawa and Mike were married, while Denki casually mentioned that he was dating their son. Next, Deku introduced Denki, revealing that he had gathered information from the Baku squad, particularly Mina and Sero, as well as from Denki himself. He shared that Denki's favorite Pokemon was Lickitung and that his favorite movie was Moana. The tone shifted as Deku revealed that Denki struggled with dyslexia, which affected his grades. He explained that overusing his quirk exacerbated his learning difficulties and could have serious consequences. Deku expressed his hope that the teachers would provide Denki with the support he needed. The video paused as Deku covered the camera with his hand. Aizawa inquired if Denki's struggles were true. Denki admitted it was, apologizing for not sharing sooner, fearing he would be treated differently. Mina reassured him that they weren't upset, and Bakugo added a teasing remark, lightening the mood. Deku then prepared to discuss Bakugo, recalling fond memories from their childhood. He reminisced about a school play where Bakugo had played the princess and he had played the prince. He shared a sweet memory of Bakugo holding mistletoe above his head for a quick kiss on the cheek and another where Bakugo had generously shared his candy during Halloween. Uraraka commented on Bakugo's past kindness, to which he responded with a playful retort. Deku revealed that he and Bakugo had dated in middle school but had mutually decided to break up, feeling more like brothers than romantic partners. He concluded his video with a cheerful wave, and the screen went dark. The classmates were left in shock at the revelation of their past relationship. Deku reassured them that their feelings had changed, but Bakugo quickly intervened, covering Deku's mouth to prevent him from sharing more. The video ended with Deku inviting viewers to tune in next time, humorously acknowledging his lack of a life while writing the book. The universe was known as Villain Wifideku X #1 Hero Bakugo, and the title seemed to explain everything. Shigaraki held a picture in his hand, pointing at something, and declared that they had found the one they could use to break Bakugo Katsuki. The scene shifted to a very cute-looking Deku tied up, with Toga and Dabi standing beside him. Shigaraki remarked that Deku was the #1 hero's lover. Toga exclaimed how cute Deku was, prompting a shocked reaction from the class. Deku protested, stating that he and Bakugo were like brothers, while Kirishima, feeling a bit jealous, mentioned that he and Bakugo were dating. Shigaraki assured them that things were about to get even more interesting. Deku then made a funny face and questioned the identity of one of his captors, making a cheeky remark that drew laughter from Toga and Dabi, who struggled to contain their amusement. The class was taken aback by Deku's unexpected use of strong language, with Mina encouraging him. The scene transitioned to Bakugo, who looked worried while holding his phone, realizing that Deku had been taken. Meanwhile, Todoroki appeared annoyed as Denki spoke to him through an earpiece, expressing disbelief that Deku had been bribed with hero merchandise. Todoroki thought about how he had just bought Deku a limited edition figure, feeling frustrated. Back with Shigaraki and his crew, he taunted Deku, questioning what a quirkless person could do. Deku smirked and Toga, caught off guard, reacted dramatically. Dabi expressed concern for Toga, who was in distress, while Shigaraki experienced a painful reaction, shocked that Deku was not as insignificant as he had assumed. As Deku stood up, the ropes fell away from him. He taunted Shigaraki, who was about to pass out, and revealed that he was someone to be feared. Present Mix voiceover explained Deku's quirk, telekinesis, and his special move, Psychic Flames. The description left Denki and Uraraka stunned. Deku, feeling emotional, looked at Bakugo and expressed his reluctance to hurt anyone, shedding a few tears. Bakugo reassured him, stating that this version of Deku was not who he truly was. Deku then warned Dabi that while his targets were not dead yet, he would ensure they faced consequences if they threatened Bakugo again. The scene shifted to Bakugo bursting through a door, declaring he had come to rescue Deku, while also seeking revenge. Deku, still tied up, pretended to be in tears, claiming he was scared and that the villains had escaped upon hearing Bakugo was coming. Bakugo rushed to hug him, assuring him everything was okay. As Bakugo and Deku interacted, Denki couldn't help but laugh at Bakugo's affectionate nickname for Deku, prompting Bakugo to retort playfully. Deku expressed relief that Bakugo had come to save him, claiming the villains had wanted to do terrible things. The camera then panned to show Deku with a sly smirk, knowing he had outsmarted them. He vowed to find those responsible and ensure they faced justice. Denki and Todoroki were shown discussing the situation over the phone, with Todoroki instructing Denki to investigate the area for any clues. A week after the kidnapping attempt, the scene depicted Deku holding a shopping bag, accompanied by Toga, Dabi, and Shigaraki. He playfully pouted, telling them to go away, while Toga commented on how cute he looked. Toga expressed her enthusiasm, suggesting they should keep him. Shigaraki added that they could use someone like him as a villain, mentioning that Kurogyari was urging him to say so. Dabi apologized, indicating he had tried to intervene. As the scene transitioned to darkness, the characters reflected on what they had just witnessed. Toga exclaimed how impressive it was, while Denki agreed, sharing his enjoyment. Bakugo admitted his frustration with himself, feeling foolish. Kirishima noted that while the display was visually striking, the idea of inflicting pain in such a manner seemed quite harsh. Deku, although reluctant to embrace the role of a villain, acknowledged the coolness of the scene. The group gathered to look at pictures saved on a laptop, a mix of nostalgia and embarrassment filling the air. The first image appeared, prompting a reaction from Aizawa, who questioned the presence of a photo featuring his husband. The response was simple: the subject looked nice. Aizawa's gaze was intense, leading to a hurried request to move on to the next image, which elicited laughter from the audience, except for Ida, who remained stoic. Uraraka couldn't contain her amusement, finding the picture too entertaining. The group decided to skip ahead to avoid further embarrassment for Ida. The laptop screen flickered, indicating a technical issue with Denki's device, which required a reboot. As the progress bar filled, the group continued their banter. A game was introduced, challenging everyone to spot Hagakure in the images. Momo expressed her delight that Shinso was present instead of Mineta, to which Deku responded dismissively. Momo quickly apologized and the group moved on. Kirishima inquired about a picture featuring dragon wings, leading to an explanation about a fantasy alternate universe where Bakugo was a barbarian king and Kirishima a shape-shifting dragon. Bakugo's reaction was one of disbelief, burying his face in his hands. The conversation shifted to a training camp incident that Ida confirmed was indeed embarrassing, causing him to blush slightly. As the viewing continued, Mina praised one of the pictures, and Kaminari and Siro enthusiastically agreed. Tsuyu recalled a similar photo they had taken, prompting a wave of affection from the group. Just as they were about to wrap up, a memorable moment was shared. Bakugo called out to Deku from the snack table, prompting a playful interaction reminiscent of a previous photo. The next chapter began with a poll regarding potential romantic pairings for Todoroki and Deku, with options narrowed down based on reader comments. The choices included Shinkami Deku and Monama X Deku, with specific instructions on how to vote using heart emojis. The narrative clarified that Todoroki would not be reuniting with Deku, inviting readers to suggest other potential partners for him or to express if they preferred him to remain single. The author reassured readers that any new relationships would develop gradually, allowing for a thoughtful integration into the story. The anticipation for reader feedback was palpable, with a promise to check comments the following evening, emphasizing the importance of each reader's opinion. The chapter concluded with warm wishes for a pleasant day or night. The voting time had come to an end, and the results were in. The winner of the Deku ship was Monama X Deku. This ship had emerged victorious, and in the upcoming chapters, hints of a relationship between them would be woven into the story. The votes also indicated that Todoroki would remain single, but one comment sparked a great idea for another chapter, and credit would be given when that chapter was posted. After a long hiatus, the author expressed apologies for the delay in updates, citing a lack of motivation. They were slowly working on the chapters and promised to return to more frequent posting once they overcame their slump. The scene opened in a surreal world, where Deku found himself wearing a long, sparkly dress and high heels. He was conversing with Todoroki, who was pleading for him to attend the theater for just one night, promising to leave him alone if he still didn't change his mind. Deku questioned why he was dressed that way and why Todoroki wanted him at the theater, but the author reminded him that this was based on a dream and the details were often confusing. As the scene progressed, Deku climbed crumbling stairs and was surprised to find Monama at the top, looking dashing in a cream-colored suit and holding a green rose. Monama nervously expressed his desire to watch the show with Deku, handing him the rose. The girls watching were delighted, and Deku blushed, trying to hide his face. The authors snapped their fingers, moving Deku next to Monama, who gestured for him to sit on a couch suspended from the ceiling. Deku was impressed and cuddled up to Monama, feeling a bit scared of falling. Monama reassured him that he would never let anything bad happen to him, causing Deku to blush even more. As the show continued, Deku began to worry about Todoroki finding them. Monama dismissed his concerns, promising to protect him no matter what. They leaned closer, and just as their lips were about to meet, the screen faded to black. The girls watching were outraged, demanding to see what happened next, but the author explained that it was the end of that segment. Since you all enjoy female counterparts so much, we are now looking at male counterparts. The first one is Momo. Momo smiled, appreciating the attention. The response was casual, with someone teasing her about being a rich girl. Next up was Uraraka, who was thrilled with her appearance and outfit, expressing her gratitude. Tsu complimented her, causing Uraraka to blush in response. Then it was Mina's turn, who confidently exclaimed how great she looked. Kaminari encouraged her, noting that she could pull off both a guy's and a girl's look. The group moved on to Tsuyu, who admired the frog necklace that complemented her outfit. Kendo was called in briefly, and upon seeing her male counterpart, she expressed her appreciation for the design. The next reveal was Jairu, who loved the music note ring that adorned her look. Finally, Toga enthusiastically admired her sweatshirt, questioning if it was real blood, while the creator shrugged in response. Midnight was the last to be revealed, and she expressed her excitement about her shirt, which elicited a quick halt to the conversation. The chapter transitioned to a new theme, focusing on female counterparts for prom. Uraraka eagerly anticipated seeing how the boys would look in dresses, and Mina agreed, expecting them to be adorable. Kirishima was the first showcased, and Mina remarked on how he looked tough yet stylish for prom. Bakugo leaned in to whisper something to Kirishima, prompting a loud reaction from the narrator, who scolded him for his comment. The next reveal was Koda, who received compliments from Hagakure and Momo for looking beautiful. The narrator decided to speed things up to maintain motivation. Shoji followed, with Uraraka praising his dress, while Tsuyu speculated about the cost of the outfit. Todoroki was next, and Mina playfully commented on his stylishness. Ida stood up, expressing gratitude for the design, humorously referencing a hot tamale. Deku admired the nature-inspired outfit, receiving a compliment from Monama, which made him blush. The atmosphere shifted slightly as Todoroki watched them with a mix of jealousy and regret. Shiro made a bold statement about his appearance, and Ida surprised everyone by revealing his knowledge of Spanish, which impressed Shiro. The narrator noted the cuteness of the moment before moving on to the next reveal. Mina celebrated a goth look, while Jiro expressed her love for the outfit. Kirishima complimented Kat, who thanked him, and Kaminari hyped her up for her queen-like appearance. The group continued with more compliments, with Shinso and Deku both praising each other, and Denki added a playful remark about his friend. Finally, the Class 1B students were introduced, with Deku excitedly noting their coordinated flower outfits, and the last reveal showcased Kirishima's twin, who received compliments for his manly look, creating a lively and supportive atmosphere among the friends. Pro heroes would be featured in the next chapter, but space was limited for pictures. First up was Fat Gum, who looked particularly fancy and shiny. The students were excited, unsure of who to choose next. Then, All Might appeared, looking fresh, which prompted Denki to express his enthusiasm. Aizawa, feeling a bit embarrassed, mumbled a compliment to Hisashi, careful not to let his students tease him. Hisashi responded warmly, appreciating the sentiment. Aizawa wanted to include a tribute to a fallen hero, ensuring they wouldn't be forgotten. All Might expressed his gratitude for the thoughtful addition. The atmosphere shifted as Hawks excitedly pointed out a feather dress, causing his feathers to fluff up and accidentally hit Dabi in the face. Dabi, slightly annoyed, asked Hawks to sit down. The last hero to be showcased was Nizu, who graciously acknowledged the compliments he received. The focus then shifted to the villains. Hawks complimented Dabi, who responded with a playful remark. Toga, excited, praised Mamajiri for his appearance, while Shigaraki grumbled about the hand earrings. Twice chimed in, alternating between admiration and playful teasing, which led to some light-hearted banter among the group. Tensions rose when Dabi and Shigaraki exchanged sharp words, each trying to one-up the other. Just as things seemed to escalate, Aizawa intervened, reminding everyone to keep the peace. In a different scenario, Midoriya found himself under the influence of a truth quirk, leading his classmates to ask him a series of questions. The boys settled him on the sofa, eager to see how the quirk would reveal his thoughts. When asked about his best friend, Midoriya exclaimed Bakugo's name with a smile, surprising himself with the quirk's effectiveness. The questions continued, revealing Midoriya's favorite color and his genuine feelings about Bakugo, which made the girls swoon while Bakugo feigned annoyance. As the questioning progressed, Denki slyly asked about Monama, prompting a tense silence. Todoroki listened intently, anxious about what Midoriya might reveal, knowing that the truth could complicate matters further. The scene opened with Deku walking down an alleyway, dressed in black ripped jeans and a dark green hoodie, his classic red shoes on his feet. He held an axe, which had some stains on it, and a mischievous grin spread across his face as he began to laugh maniacally. He expressed his fondness for his friends and his trusty axe, emphasizing their bond. As he sat under a street lamp, he reflected on his axe being his companion, claiming that together they would leave a mark on anyone who crossed their path. He sang about the joy his axe brought him while strolling through the alley, making light of dark themes in a playful manner. Uraraka found herself unsettled by villain Deku's antics, expressing her fear. Bakugo teased her, dismissing her concerns. Deku continued to boast about his axe, lifting it in a dramatic fashion, suggesting that it could deliver a painful blow. Denki chuckled at the humor in Deku's words, while Shinso rolled his eyes at Denki's childishness. Deku's playful demeanor took a darker turn as he sang about his axe leaving a mark on those who opposed him. The scene shifted to a crowd of people, where Deku approached, his expression sinister and his axe raised high. Panic ensued as someone shouted for everyone to run, with the League of Villains not far behind. Shigaraki questioned their association with Deku, while others in the group acknowledged his leadership role. Deku sang about the thrill of chaos, and the League chanted in response, their synchronization eerie. Mina shuddered at the sight, while Dabi acknowledged their allegiance to Deku. Toga admired Deku's bloodied appearance, her affection evident, which sparked jealousy in Monama, who pulled Deku closer. Deku continued his dark musings, stepping over fallen figures and expressing his disdain for bigotry. He confronted Momo about a past incident, revealing his lingering feelings of betrayal. The tension in the air was palpable as the audience held their breath. Deku then reflected on his bond with his axe, expressing how it never let him down. He threw a throwing axe at a picture of Todoroki, showcasing his frustration. Denki's comment about wanting chips lightened the mood momentarily, but the focus quickly returned to their plans. Shigaraki pressed Deku for details on their strategy, which Deku reiterated with a hint of annoyance. He outlined his intention to infiltrate UA and recruit his crush, revealing his hopes for their future together. Toga's admiration for Deku's plans was evident, while Mina speculated about whom he was referring to. The scene transitioned to Deku lurking around UA, singing ominously as he stalked Monama. Tsuyu and Hagakure exchanged nervous glances, feeling the tension in the air. Deku's words hinted at a darker purpose as he captured Monama, bringing him to the hideout. As Monama regained consciousness, confusion washed over him. He questioned his surroundings and why he wasn't restrained. Deku reassured him, expressing a desire to talk rather than threaten him. Monama's heart raced at the unexpected affection in Deku's tone. Deku proposed an alliance, suggesting they could lead the League of Villains together. Monama, however, was resolute in his goal of becoming a hero, rejecting Deku's offer. Deku challenged him, pointing out the struggles Monama faced and the perceptions others had of him. Monama's expression shifted as he grappled with the truth in Deku's words, feeling the weight of his own insecurities. Kendo looked at her friend with concern, sensing the sadness in her expression. Aizawa took out his notebook and wrote down Monama's name along with the others, intending to arrange for therapists for them. Deku offered Monama a reassuring smile and gently took his hand, silently conveying that everything would be all right. Deku moved closer to Monama, holding his hands and making him meet his gaze. He expressed his admiration, stating that he did not see Monama as useless, rather he recognized his talent for devising great strategies and surprise attacks. Deku emphasized how much he appreciated Monama's unique qualities, ensuring that Monama understood he was sincere. As Monama's eyes filled with tears, one slipped down his cheek. Deku tenderly wiped it away, softly encouraging him to join their group. Monama nodded in agreement, and a bright smile spread across Deku's face as the scene faded to black. In the quiet room, Monama leaned against Deku, quietly sobbing into his chest. The atmosphere was filled with warmth, and no one wanted to interrupt the tender moment. Many pulled out their phones to capture the heartwarming. The group eventually decided to move on, acknowledging the need to continue. The author had been absent for a while due to technical difficulties with their laptop, which had broken. They had to transfer everything to their phone and would be posting from there. They hoped to respond to comments and votes more quickly and aimed to release chapters faster, though they couldn't guarantee it due to their busy schedule. They wished everyone a great day or night. The chapter was a filler, serving as a brief update while the author worked on other stories. They expressed a need for creative input from readers, inviting requests for future chapters. They mentioned having a dentist appointment soon and hoped to write while recovering from it. The author acknowledged their struggle with creativity and promised to try to get back on track with their stories, hoping to have something ready soon. In a light-hearted moment, the group gathered to react to videos featuring Deku and his friends. Deku felt a bit deflated at the thought of what might be shown. Kirishima asked about the squad's antics, while Siro joked that their squad couldn't be worse than theirs. They decided to dive right into the reactions. In Ida's room, the Deku squad was relaxing when Uraraka sent a TikTok about Ida supposedly having a boyfriend. Ida jokingly clarified that he didn't have a boyfriend but referred to someone as his sidekick, prompting laughter from the group. Deku recalled a time when he, Tsu, and Todoroki were confused by the situation, and Bakugo teased Deku about his squad's oddities. The screen lit up with a clip of a conversation where Deku humorously mentioned population control, followed by Tsu's quip about late abortion. Ida chimed in with a joke, and the group erupted in laughter. Mina requested some context, and the author explained that they had been discussing something rather dark. Deku then entered the common room holding a bottle filled with a clear liquid, claiming it was vodka. He took a swig, prompting laughter and disbelief from his friends. They playfully teased him about his antics and lack of tipsiness. The author shared a funny moment from when the Deku squad had to go online for a meeting. Uraraka asked if they used their kitchen appliances for video calls, leading to a series of humorous responses from the group about their unconventional setups. Deku burst into Uraraka's room with a can labeled "Baby in a Can," joking about its absurdity, which made everyone laugh even harder. Bakugo, overwhelmed by the chaos, decided to leave, and the author wrapped up the segment, promising to return with more content soon. The author expressed their struggles with mental health but was determined to keep working on their stories and improve their situation. They thanked their readers for their patience and support. The multiverse began to load, revealing a dark night on the ocean with a pirate ship in the distance. A dark figure sat on a large rock, humming a haunting tune. Jairu watched in awe, captivated by the figure's voice. The next day, Deku swam toward the pirate ship, eager to catch a glimpse of his favorite captain, Captain Monama. Uraraka admired Deku's appearance, noting how his green tail blended beautifully with the waves. As he approached the ship, He began to sing, his eyes glowing with an enchanting light. The sailors on the ship seemed entranced, their eyes glossing over as they moved closer to the edge, drawn in by his melodic voice. Mina expressed her unease about Deku's glowing eyes, while Deku, unfazed, pulled out a notebook, pondering the nature of his quirk. He continued to sing, urging the sailors to join him in the water, his movements graceful and inviting. Hagakure commented on Deku's skill, suggesting he had experience in this kind of allure. As Deku sang, the sailors found themselves bound by seaweed, sinking gently to the ocean floor, entranced by his song. Uraraka felt a shiver of fear, while Bakugo dismissed her concerns, only to be playfully hit with a water bottle by her. Deku, ever the peacemaker, called for kindness, though Bakugo grumbled in response. The following day, Deku swam toward the ship once more, determined to catch Captain Monama's attention. He sang with confidence, sending thoughts of companionship into Monama's mind. Monama emerged from his office, intrigued by the sound of Deku's voice. As he jumped into the water, a beautiful silver tail formed from his legs, stunning everyone watching. The two began to sing together, their voices harmonizing in a captivating duet. As they sang, seaweed wrapped around Monama's wrists, and he found himself gently pulled down to the ocean floor, resting on a bed of coral. Deku swam closer, their faces nearly touching, his gaze intense as he whispered about desires. Monama playfully teased Deku, and the atmosphere was charged with excitement. Some of the girls watching felt faint, while Deku, overwhelmed by embarrassment, fainted. Monama, blushing yet smirking, enjoyed the moment. Deku expressed his longing, and Monama pulled him closer, sharing a deep kiss. The scene shifted to show them together, luring people into the water, running a thriving trading company, and even raising little ones, as sirens could lay eggs regardless of gender. As the story concluded, the girls expressed their delight, and Monama, with a smug smile, acknowledged the performance. Todoroki, feeling a bit left out, muttered under his breath, while Deku, still blushing, stuttered his approval. The narrative moved on, leaving behind the enchanting world they had created. In a unique universe where wizards and witches exist instead of individuals with quirks, students are sorted into 4 houses based on their traits: Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin. Each house has its own emblem and colors, representing the qualities valued by its members. The scene opens in a grand hall filled with 4 long tables, each adorned with colored flags. At the front, Nizu presides over the gathering, flanked by Recovery Girl and Aizawa. All Might and Present Mike sit nearby, while 13 and Ectoplasm occupy a corner. The ceiling resembles a starry night, with candles floating gracefully above. As the students marvel at their surroundings, Uraraka expresses her awe at the beauty of the hall, while Mina agrees enthusiastically. Momo raises her hand, curious about the floating candles, and Aizawa casually explains that it's magic. Bakugo, skeptical, questions the existence of magic, prompting a moment of silence among the group. Nizu welcomes everyone to a new year at Hogwarts, and the students clap in excitement. He announces the sorting ceremony, which soon follows, leading to a feast filled with an abundance of food appearing on the tables. Kirishima, thrilled to be back, enthusiastically digs into his mashed potatoes, while Deku shares his excitement. Kendo, slightly disgusted, comments on Kirishima's eating habits, leading to a playful exchange. Amidst the chatter, Monama from the Slytherin table attempts to catch Deku's attention, casting a charm to whisper compliments that leave Deku blushing. As the evening progresses, Bakugo, protective of Deku, confronts Monama, warning him to stay away from his friend. Monama, unfazed, brushes off the threat, insisting he would never harm Deku, whom he finds too precious. In the following months, during potions class, Aizawa attempts to teach, but Deku struggles to concentrate as Monama sends him paper butterflies with notes. When called upon, Deku stumbles over his answer, distracted by Monama's antics. Aizawa, noticing the distraction, challenges them to focus on their studies instead of their playful banter. The story unfolds with friendships deepening and rivalries forming, set against the backdrop of a magical school where each character navigates their unique challenges and relationships. Monama raised his voice, urging everyone to pay attention. Both boys blushed and apologized to the professor. Time passed, and the scene shifted to the infirmary where Deku was recovering after losing his arm. His friends Kendo, Kirishima, Uraraka, Denki, and Bakugo were gathered around him, waiting for Recovery Girl to return with the potion to regrow his arm. Monama entered the room, expressing concern about Deku's condition. He asked if it was true that Deku's bones were gone. Uraraka, thinking Monama was teasing, told him to leave Deku alone. Monama insisted he was just checking on his boyfriend and asked Deku if he was in any pain. Deku shook his head, reassuring him that he was okay. The screen faded to black, and Uraraka expressed her enjoyment of that universe, prompting others to agree. The next scene began with the author announcing the start of a new multiverse. However, the loading process was interrupted by the author's frustration over a malfunctioning machine. She decided to call someone for help. After a few rings, a mysterious voice answered, and they exchanged playful banter. The author asked for assistance with the broken machine, and the person agreed to come over. As the portal opened, a girl stepped through, introducing herself as Cadence or Cat. The author explained her predicament, and Cat reluctantly agreed to help, asking the author to entertain the audience while she worked. The audience was curious about Cat's identity, prompting Nizu to inquire. The author introduced Cat as her best friend, and they joked about their relationship. Cat then went to fix the machine while the author connected her phone to the projector to show pictures. Denki was excited to see himself in a photo, and Shinso complimented him. The group laughed at the chaotic nature of the pictures on the author's phone, with Denki expressing concern over the number of photos of him. The playful banter continued until Cat announced the machine was fixed. The author thanked Cat and hugged her as she stepped back through the portal, ready to return to the multiverses. The author then hinted at a sad chapter focused on Bakugo, who was apprehensive about being the center of attention. Kirishima comforted him, assuring him it would be fine. Bakugo took a deep breath, preparing for what was to come. The screen lit up, showing Mitsuki standing over Bakugo, who sat on the couch with his head down, feeling the weight of her words. She instructed him to follow her rules, emphasizing that he should not speak unless addressed. With a swift motion, she playfully slapped him on the back of the head. Denki reacted with surprise, while Siro expressed his discontent. Mina, feeling frustrated, considered confronting her. Bakugo, on the other hand, wished to escape the situation. Telepathically, Es asked if he wanted to take Kiri with him, to which Bakugo eagerly agreed. In an instant, they were transported to a side room. Deku, puzzled, inquired about Bakugo's whereabouts. AS informed him that Bakugo and Kiri had gone into a side room and would return when the universe ended. Meanwhile, Bakugo found himself in his room, unleashing his anger. He repeatedly expressed his disdain for his mother, his frustration boiling over. Deku, witnessing this, felt a pang of sadness for his friend. Monama tried to comfort him, assuring him that he could talk to Bakugo later. In Bakugo's room, Mitsuki stood with her arms crossed, giving him a stern lecture. She suggested he wear makeup to cover the bruise she had given him earlier, but not too much. Aizawa, feeling protective, voiced his outrage at her comments, regretting allowing Bakugo to return home. Hizashi attempted to soothe him, promising they would find a solution after the chaos subsided. Mitsuki rummaged through Bakugo's closet, pulling out an orange shirt and a white skirt, expressing her disapproval of the latter. As dinner was served, Bakugo's plate was filled, necessary for his hero training. Mitsuki remarked that eating would make him gain weight, prompting Aizawa to react with anger, activating his quirk. AS intervened, suggesting they send Bakugo to a private room to calm down. In the training room, Bakugo unleashed his frustrations on a punching bag, his music blaring. Thoughts of his mother consumed him as he punched the bag with such force that it broke free from its holder. A flashback from kindergarten surfaced, where he was told that if someone bullied him, it meant they liked him. The memory brought a wave of sadness over him. Mina, feeling the tension, gripped the arms of her chair tightly, her quirk unintentionally activating. Aizawa and Hizashi returned, appearing calmer. The scene shifted to a younger Bakugo being scolded, with his mother expressing her disbelief that he could understand abuse at such a young age. She walked away, leaving him feeling lost. The atmosphere in the theater was chaotic, with people reacting to the unfolding drama. Bakugo, overwhelmed, began to throw things in his room, his anger reaching a peak as he shouted his feelings about his mother. Afterward, he sank to the floor, sobbing quietly, feeling the weight of his emotions. A knock on the door interrupted his despair. Kirishima's voice came from the other side, asking if he could come in. Denki noted that Kirishima would help calm Bakugo down. Bakugo opened the door, his eyes red and tear-streaked. Kirishima entered, taken aback by the mess, but he knew just how to support Bakugo in this moment. He approached carefully, asking for permission to touch him. Bakugo nodded, still recovering from his outburst. Kirishima embraced Bakugo gently, guiding him to the bed and holding him close. Bakugo rested his head against Kirishima's chest, listening to his heartbeat as Kirishima soothingly ran his hands along his back, humming softly to provide comfort. The scene faded out, leaving only the sound of Kirishima's calming melody. Mina expressed her relief at Kirishima's arrival, feeling grateful for his support. Aizawa, determined to protect Bakugo, made a note to ensure he would not return to that house. Deku inquired about Bakugo's well-being, and AS reassured him that while he was fine for now, he would benefit from talking to a professional. As the scene shifted back, Bakugo was seen peacefully asleep in Kirishima's arms, comforted by his friend's presence. The audience reacted with warmth, touched by the moment. The idea of adding Shigaraki to the Dobbyhawks dynamic was on the table, and there was curiosity about whether it would be well received. Thoughts were also turning to Todoroki and potential pairings, with a request for suggestions that excluded Deku and other established ships. The call for ship ideas was met with enthusiasm, and there was a desire for names and core concepts to enhance the story. As the chapter progressed, the author expressed a desire to explore a crossover with Harry Potter, contemplating whether to base it on existing videos or create an entirely original skit. The author acknowledged the frequent requests for input, emphasizing how helpful feedback was in shaping future chapters. The scene shifted to a reveal of the next generation of heroes, with the author stepping out from behind the curtains holding a remote. The characters were introduced to their children, who had undergone significant changes since their last visit. Instead of bringing the kids into the present, the author opted to share pictures and brief descriptions. First was Mohosha, the only child of Monama and Deku, whose quirk mirrored Monama's. At 15 years old, he was asexual and in Class 1A. The characters admired his cool appearance, and the excitement was palpable. Next came Nia Kaminari, one of the daughters of Denki and Shinso. Her quirk, electric brainwashing, allowed her to control others through harmless electrical shocks, though it came with the drawback of migraines if overused. At 15, she identified as a lesbian and polyamorous, and was in the support class. There was a moment of tension regarding her placement in classes, but it was clarified that she had chosen not to pursue a spot in Class 1A. The second daughter, Mia Kaminari, was just 6 months old, and her outfit, reminiscent of a frog, was a gift from Azui. The focus then shifted to Ida and Siro's children, with Ida expressing surprise at having multiple kids. Lexan Ida, at 15, had a quirk similar to his father's but fueled by apple juice. Ash, his older brother, had a quirk that involved tape, which he managed with gloves to avoid complications. Their youngest sibling, Maribel, was 3 years old and had yet to show any signs of a quirk. The narrative then moved to Bakugo and Kirishima's children, starting with Miko Bakugo. Her quirk allowed her to harden her skin and create explosions upon impact, though it came with the risk of cracking her skin. Miko was 15, bisexual, and in Class 1A. There was concern about an injury she sustained during training, but reassurance was given that help was available. Ryu Bakugo followed, identified as non-binary and preferring they-them pronouns. Their quirk was also explosions, similar to Bakugo's, but came with significant risks, including potential hearing loss and hand cramps. Bakugo's protective nature shone through as he expressed anger over his child's injuries. Finally, Julian Bakugo, at just 14 months old, was introduced. The scene transitioned to Dabi, Shigaraki, and Hawk's children, with the 3 boys blushing and exchanging glances. The first child introduced was Tess Shigaraki, whose quirk involved disintegrating wings, setting the stage for further revelations about this intriguing new generation. Their quirk allows them to shoot out feathers, and whatever the feather lands on begins to disintegrate. A drawback of her quirk is that she can injure herself with her wings. Some additional facts include that she uses she/they pronouns, identifies as Kerr, is 17 years old, and serves as a vigilant. On her off days when she is not on missions, she helps in the League of Villains as a medic. Next is her twin, Alex Shigaraki. Alex's quirk is blue flames, similar to Dobby's, but the flames can also harm him, leaving him with scars. He identifies as asexual, uses he/she pronouns, is 17 years old, and is in the support class at UA. The last sibling is Rei Shigaraki. The Todoroki siblings' eyes widened at the name, as Rei Todoroki thought to herself that it was sweet to be honored in such a way. Rei is 4 years old and has not yet shown any physical quirk, so everyone is waiting to see if she will develop one. Next are Shoto and Momo's children. Shoto was slightly blushing, while Momo appeared completely flustered. First up is Nora Todoroki. Her quirk is fire creation, allowing her to create sculptures and figures made of fire from lipids in her body. She primarily uses her quirk to protect herself by creating beasts to fight her opponents. A drawback is that if her fire gets too out of control, it can come back to her and cause burns. Some other facts about her include that she is bisexual, 16 years old, and in Class 1B. Next is Alice Todoroki. Her quirk is similar to Nora's but involves ice. The drawback is that creating too much ice at once can lead to frostbite. Alice is 20 years old, identifies as a lesbian, and works as a doctor. She often uses her quirk to calm small children during medical procedures by creating small animals. Next are the new additions to the Aizawa family, the adopted twins. First is Misa Aizawa. Her quirk, Angel, grants her healing properties and the ability to summon angels for assistance in battle or protection. The drawbacks include the risk of passing out from overuse of her healing or summoning abilities, and flying too much can cause her wings to cramp. Misa is 16 years old, identifies as a lesbian, is in Class 1B, and sometimes interns with Recovery Girl to help with injuries. Next is her twin, Moshi Aizawa. Her quirk is the opposite of her sister's. Called Demon or Devastation, it allows her to make a person relive their worst memories and summon demons for assistance. The drawbacks include the risk of backfiring if she uses her quirk for too long, and summoning too many demons at once can cause her to faint. Moshi is also 16 years old and is in Class 1B. Lastly, we have Uraraka and Azui's children. First is Esmeralda Azui. Her quirk, Frog, allows her to communicate with frogs and grants her frog-like abilities, with no known drawbacks. Esmeralda is 17 years old and is in Class 3B. Next is Ethan Azui, Esmeralda's twin brother. His quirk, Floating Tongue, gives him a frog-like tongue that floats until he touches all the pads of his fingers together. He also has no known drawbacks. Ethan is 17 years old and is in Class 3B as well. Finally, there is Lily Azui. At just 1 year old, not much is known about her, but according to Tsuyu's parents, some of her actions resemble what Tsuyu did at her age, suggesting she might develop a quirk similar to Tsuyu's. Uraraka raised her hand and asked what was on Lily's back, pointing to the green thing behind her legs. The author explained that it was a tadpole tail, which Lily would have until she turns 1, and it would shrink as she grows older. The author then announced that they had covered all the kids for now, and the crowd expressed their disappointment. The author reassured them that perhaps they would get a glimpse into their lives in the future and encouraged comments and requests. Siro commented to Mina about his confusion regarding what someone was looking at. The next chapter would feature Femdeku as a singer. The author planned a redo on reacting to second gen and sought help with ship ideas. They had already established certain pairings, including Monama and Deku, Kirishima and Bakugo, Denki and Shinso, Siro and Ida, Shigaraki, Dabi, and Hawks, and Todoroki and Momo. The author was unsure about other ships, particularly for Uraraka, and asked for suggestions, emphasizing not to include characters already paired. After some time, The author announced that the winning ship for Uraraka was Tsuyu Azui, the lovely frog girl, hinting at their future children. The scene shifted to a concert featuring a female singer Deku, with Kirishima and Bakugo standing slightly off to the side. Monama stood on one side of the stage, holding a guitar, while Denki sat behind a drum set. Deku was positioned at the front. The stage lit up, showcasing the fantastic outfits everyone wore. Uraraka admired their appearance, expressing her excitement. Mina wondered what song would be performed, while Jairu anticipated Monama's impressive vocals. Monama began the performance with a confident line, prompting Mina to comment on the strong start. Deku felt his face heat up, his thoughts scattered. Monama continued, leading into the song with a catchy rhythm. Jairu was already captivated by the performance, while Denki remarked on how surprising it was to hear Deku sing like this. Bakugo, however, expressed his disapproval, showing his protective side, which Shiro, Mina, and Kaminari teased him about. As the song progressed, the energy on stage intensified. Monama sang with flair, and Kirishima and Bakugo joined in, showcasing their own vocal talents. Jairu was thrilled, declaring this might be her favorite performance yet. Deku sang with a captivating gaze, drawing the attention of the crowd, who were visibly impressed. Monama encouraged the audience with a powerful verse, and the chemistry on stage was palpable as she interacted with him. The performance reached its climax, with the crowd cheering louder than ever. Monama concluded the song with a flourish, and the lights dimmed, leaving the audience buzzing with excitement. As the theater quieted, the distant sound of cheering faded, and Jairu enthusiastically shared her thoughts on the performance. Bakugo teased her, but the energy remained high as they discussed the show. The atmosphere was electric, and the audience was left in awe of the performance they had just witnessed. The group was excited to react to more Actor AU content, as it had been a while since their last session. They eagerly anticipated the fun ahead. The first item on their agenda was a collection of red carpet pictures. Bakugo observed Kiri's expression and wondered why he looked like he was about to tackle him, to which the others speculated that he probably was. Uraraka admired how beautiful everyone looked, while Mina expressed her surprise at how different she appeared without her usual pink. Hawks, in a playful tone, shouted at Dabi and Twice, who were laughing at his expense, insisting he did not resemble Big Bird. Next, they moved on to some interviews. The group reacted with sympathy to Shigaraki's struggles, with Toga expressing her concern for him. Deku felt a pang of guilt, wishing he could ease his mother's worries. Monama comforted him, assuring him that she was fine and understood. Todoroki found it strange to see himself getting along with his father, prompting nods of agreement from the others. The girls cooed at the sight, leading Shoto to reflect on the possibility that deep down he might care. Denki commented on how adorable the young actors were, while Deku marveled at the fact that Kodo was his brother in this EU. Kirishima teased Bakugo about his kindness towards the child, to which Bakugo defensively retorted. The playful banter escalated, culminating in a challenge from Uraraka, resulting in Bakugo ending up with a bloody nose. The scene shifted to a new segment, where the author teased the audience about what was to come. The focus was on Bakugo, who was preparing for school. Shiro noted the unusual calmness in Bakugo's demeanor, which only Izuku seemed to notice. When Bakugo winked at him, Izuku realized something was amiss. As class ended, Deku approached Bakugo, asking about a mysterious figure named Mako. The audience was left puzzled, and the author smirked knowingly. Mako, who bore a striking resemblance to Bakugo, playfully teased Deku, pulling him closer. Despite Deku's protests, Mako maintained his playful demeanor, even acknowledging Deku's relationship with someone else. The audience speculated about Mako's identity, with Ida and Momo analyzing the situation. Mako revealed that he was pretending to be Bakugo until someone figured it out or... The school day ended. Just then, the real Katsuki arrived, looking flustered. The classroom erupted in confusion as they tried to determine who was who. Mako stood confidently and introduced himself as Katsuki's older twin brother, much to everyone's astonishment. Katsuki rolled his eyes, reminding everyone that he was only older by a minute, but Mako insisted on his status. As the scene faded to black, the group reflected on the storyline, with Uraraka expressing her enjoyment and Deku wishing for a twin for Katsuki. Monama appreciated Mako's respect for Deku's relationship, though he still found the past infatuation concerning. The excitement lingered as they anticipated what would come next in the unfolding narrative. Momojiro felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him as he prepared to leave. He was not sure what time it would be, but he noted that it was currently 10. He and his companions would be staying at a hotel for a while they searched for a new house. Despite the upheaval, he hoped to continue writing chapters during their stay, determined to keep his readers informed about his journey. He felt grateful for the support of his readers, appreciating their patience and understanding during this transition. As he reflected on their kindness, he wished them all a wonderful day or night, whatever the time may be. After arriving at his destination, he felt a sense of relief. Everything had gone smoothly, and he was safe and sound. On a different note, he acknowledged that it was his birthday, marking a new year in his life. Although he found it strange to receive birthday wishes from people he didn't know, he was determined to embrace the moment and move past any discomfort he felt. As he navigated through his emotions, he began to explore the complex feelings of Momojiro and Todoroki, intertwining their struggles and experiences, inspired by the music that resonated with their angst. Chapter End. Author San walked in front of the group, greeting them with a playful jab. All Might requested that Author San refrain from calling the students losers, to which Author San responded with a dismissive glare, prompting All Might to sink down in his seat. With a shift in focus, Author San announced the next universe they would explore, titled Ghost Deku. The title was self-explanatory, leaving no room for questions. Deku stood on the rooftop of a building that haunted him. The rain poured down, and the city below sparkled with lights, creating an almost surreal atmosphere. He felt a sense of finality as he marked off his last checklist, which included tidying up his room, scattering hero notes in the river, leaving letters for his mother and Bakugo, saying goodbye one last time, and leaving an extra note for the police. Bakugo felt a wave of sadness wash over him as he realized where this was heading. Uraraka expressed her discomfort, not wanting to witness the unfolding events, while Dabi rolled his eyes at her reaction. Deku, with a sad smile, removed his bag and shoes, placing them neatly next to each other. He stepped closer to the edge and looked down, contemplating the distance. Then he stepped off, and everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he found himself surrounded by chaos ambulances, police cars, and a crowd of people, including his mother, who was crying. Confused, he attempted to speak, but his voice was nothing more than a whisper carried away by the wind. He soon noticed the white sheet covering his body, lying amidst the turmoil. Realization hit him. His plan had worked, but he was still there, unable to understand why. Uraraka urged him not to think negatively, while he wandered aimlessly, unsure of what to do next. He spotted a middle school boy with black hair reading his hero notebook by the river and impulsively threw the notebook into the water, not expecting anyone to find it. Curious, he approached the boy to see which page he was on. It was the page dedicated to Crimson Riot, and the boy appeared captivated by it. Deku thought to himself that the boy must really like Crimson Riot. The boy expressed disappointment upon reaching the last entry, revealing his face, which shocked Deku. It was Kirishima. Jiraiya questioned Kirishima about his hair color, to which Kirishima responded with confusion, explaining that he dyed his hair red. Bakugo chimed in, surprised that they didn't know that. Deku wondered if he could communicate with Kirishima and reached out to the book. As he touched it, a strange sensation coursed through him. He focused on the word, hello, and to his astonishment, it appeared on the page in his handwriting. Kirishima marveled at the magical notebook, while Deku chuckled internally, thinking it was amusing to be referred to as a ghost. Kirishima introduced himself with enthusiasm, and Deku reciprocated, complimenting Kirishima's unique teeth. The two boys continued to converse, sharing their experiences. Deku opened up about being bullied for being quirkless, while Kirishima shared his feelings of inadequacy regarding his own quirk. Their bond grew stronger, evolving into a brotherly friendship. Deku encouraged Kirishima to pursue his dreams of attending UA, offering training tips to help him strengthen his quirk. As the time for the entrance exams approached, Deku found himself watching from a room filled with pro-heroes. Among the candidates, he spotted Bakugo, and a wave of fear washed over him as memories flooded back. Chapter End. Flashbacks from middle school flooded his mind, causing him to phase through someone. A man with tall, bold hair asked if anyone else felt that strange cold chill. A tired man dressed in black dismissed him, saying he was just going insane. Uraraka, with a playful tone, expressed sympathy for Deku-kun. Katsuki, filled with regret, wondered if he had truly hurt Izuku that badly. Kirishima burst into the room, excitement radiating from him. He announced that his letter from Yue had arrived, nearly tearing it apart in his eagerness. Izuku urged him to open it, and Kirishima did, revealing a hologram. Nisa's voice congratulated Kirishima for passing the exam with impressive scores, making him second in the practical test and fourth in the written test. Uraraka was amazed, not realizing Kirishima was so smart. He modestly accepted the compliment, while Bakugo playfully smacked him on the back of the head, reminding him not to sell himself short. Kirishima flashed a bright smile at Bakugo, feeling proud of his friend. Izuku cheered him on internally, and Kirishima acknowledged that he couldn't have done it without Izuku's support. As time passed, Kirishima prepared for his first day at UA. He gelled his hair, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves, as Izuku encouraged him to get to school. When he arrived, he marveled at the building, having only seen it from a distance before. As he walked to his homeroom, he greeted various students with smiles, embodying his friendly nature. However, upon reaching the door, anxiety washed over him. He feared being perceived as weak, as he had been in middle school. Taking a deep breath, he recalled Izuku's encouraging words and stepped inside. Inside the classroom, he overheard a confrontation between a tall, cube-shaped boy with blue hair and glasses and another student lounging at a desk. Kirishima recognized the tension and felt uneasy, especially when Izuku mentioned a boy named Kaken, who had bullied him in the past. Kirishima resolved to avoid Kaken, believing that anyone who had hurt Izuku was unforgivable. Mina commented on Kirishima's loyalty to Izuku, while Tetsu praised his manly decision. Momo suggested that not everyone should be judged based on past actions, but Denki defended Izuku, emphasizing the severity of the bullying he endured. As weeks went by, Kirishima continued to ignore Bakugo, focusing on his studies and friendships. However, Bakugo grew frustrated with Kirishima's avoidance. One day, after training, Bakugo confronted Kirishima, blocking his path as he tried to leave. Bakugo demanded to know why Kirishima was acting this way, insisting he hadn't done anything to warrant such treatment. Kirishima, feeling cornered, denied any issue and attempted to escape. Bakugo, undeterred, pressed on, accusing Kirishima of having a problem with him since the first day of school. He noticed Kirishima mumbling to himself, which he found unsettling. Kirishima, feeling the pressure, backed away until he hit the lockers behind him. Uraraka and Hagakure exchanged worried glances, while Shiro pointed out that they understood why Kirishima might be hesitant to befriend Bakugo. Bakugo slammed his hand against the locker, demanding to know what he had done to upset Kirishima. In a moment of defiance, Kirishima leaned in and whispered, suggesting Bakugo ask Izuku. He then pushed past Bakugo, who stood frozen in shock, grappling with the implications of Kirishima's words. The tension hung in the air, leaving Bakugo to ponder how Kirishima could possibly know Izuku, who he believed was gone for good. To be continued. Midoriya looked down, blushing, already knowing what he was going to say. He didn't want to meet anyone's gaze. He expressed his feelings about someone special, describing how nice the person was and how captivating their eyes were, comparing them to a beautiful stormy night sky. He felt that when they spoke, it was as if he was the only one that mattered, as if their life was complete in that moment. He realized he might be in love. The entire theater was silent, stunned by his heartfelt confession. No one knew how to respond. Both boys were taken aback. Manama struggled to process what he had just heard, feeling unworthy of such affection. He thought to himself that no one could ever love him like that. He felt like a joke, wondering why someone as sweet as Midoriya would have feelings for him. Midoriya, overwhelmed with embarrassment, ran to his room and locked himself in, unable to believe he had shared his feelings so openly. Unbeknownst to him, he had recorded his confession before asking the question, and after leaving, he sent it to Monama. The screen faded to black, and Mina exclaimed in frustration that it couldn't just end like that. She wanted to know Monama's response. Another voice informed her that it was indeed the end. AS announced the arrival of another singing performance while walking out with a tablet. Denki questioned when AS would stop calling them losers, to which AS replied that it would only happen when they died, claiming immortality. AS then revealed that the performers for this session included Tokoyami, Shinso, Monama, Jiru, and Bakugo. Mina's eyes sparkled with excitement at the mention of Tokoyami singing. The stage lit up, showcasing Tokoyami at the front with a microphone, Shinso beside him with a guitar, and Monama across from them with another microphone and what appeared to be DJ equipment. Bakugo sat at the back on drums, while Jiru stood next to him with a bass guitar. Mina expressed her enthusiasm, already loving the performance. Midoriya leaned over to Monama, surprised to learn that he could sing and DJ. Monama modestly admitted it was just a small hobby of his. Tokoyami began to sing, his voice powerful and resonant as the beat picked up, Bakugo intensifying his drumming. The lyrics conveyed a sense of frustration and weariness, reflecting on struggles with fame and relationships. Kaminari and Jiro reacted with excitement, praising the performance. Shinso then took his turn, his voice blending seamlessly with the music, sharing his own feelings of misunderstanding and the challenges of being in the spotlight. Monama joined in, expressing his own experiences with friendships and personal battles. As the song progressed, the energy on stage was palpable, with each performer contributing to the overall emotion of the piece. When the performance concluded, the screen cut off, leaving the audience in awe. Ace asked for their thoughts on the performance, and Jiro enthusiastically declared it amazing. Uraraka teased her about her love for singing universes, while Mina expressed her surprise at discovering the singing talents of the three boys. Shinso downplayed his abilities, while Tokoyami shared that he practiced with Jiru, who believed his voice suited the bass parts. Monama revealed that his mother had made him and his sister take singing lessons when they were younger. The revelation about Monama's sister caught everyone off guard, leading to a moment of silence as he reflected on her absence. Across the room, a certain member of the League of Villains appeared to share in the sadness, whispering an apology to her brother. Ace walked out on stage holding her tablet as usual. She informed the audience that this performance would be an emotional one while she adjusted the settings on her device. The scene opened with Bakugo sitting in a chair, looking into a mirror and fluffing his hair. A staff member entered and announced that he had 5 minutes before his appearance, then exited. Bakugo closed his eyes and took a deep breath, becoming lost in a memory of him and Kirishima. Mina wondered what Bakugo might be doing, while Ida speculated that since the scene was set in the future, he was likely a hero preparing for a talk show. Momo questioned how it could be sad, prompting Aizawa to silently hope that nothing would happen to his students. In the flashback, the boys were in Bakugo's room, sharing a moment until Kirishima broke the silence with a serious request. He asked Bakugo to promise that they would always return to each other, to which Bakugo solemnly agreed. Back in the present, Kirishima whispered to Bakugo, seeking reassurance, and Bakugo responded by taking his hand. Bakugo then stood up, grabbed a guitar, and walked onto a dark stage. The crowd's cheers grew louder as the lights illuminated him, casting a shadow across his eyes. The drums began, and he started strumming his guitar. Jiro expressed excitement for another singing performance, while Tsuyu reminded her that AS had mentioned it would be sad. Uraraka suggested that perhaps the song itself would convey that sadness. As Bakugo sang, the lyrics echoed his emotions, and flashes of his time with Kirishima appeared on screen. He sang about the pain of love and the longing to swap places with someone dear. The visuals shifted to Bakugo in his hero costume, running from the press toward an ambulance, desperation driving him forward. He reached the hospital, racing through the halls until he arrived at a room where Kirishima lay, connected to machines that sustained his life. Overwhelmed, Bakugo looked down, tears forming in his eyes. Kirishima reached out to comfort him, reminding him that he was still there, but Bakugo's heart ached with the fear of loss. As Bakugo continued to sing, the flashbacks intensified. He was seen speaking with a doctor outside Kirishima's room, who delivered heartbreaking news about the futility of further treatment. The weight of the situation pressed down on Bakugo as he stood outside the room, watching the medical staff prepare to disconnect Kirishima from the machines. The heart monitors beeping slowed, signaling the end. Bakugo's anguish was palpable as he stood at Kirishima's funeral, unable to bear the sorrow surrounding him. He left the gathering, feeling overwhelmed by the tragedy of their love story. In the aftermath, Bakugo was shown in his funeral attire, sitting on his bed with a ring box he had intended to use for a proposal to Kirishima. The news headlines announced his retirement from hero work due to the tragic loss of his partner. Returning to the stage, Bakugo lifted his head, revealing tears streaming down his face as he poured his heart into the final lines of the song. The performance ended abruptly, leaving the audience in stunned silence. Mina wiped her tears, expressing how sad the experience had been, while Kaminari lamented that he never wanted to see either Bakugo or Kirishima in such pain again. Author-san walked out from behind the curtain holding her tablet. She announced that she had another universe to share with everyone. Bakugo shouted at her to stop calling them losers, while Kirishima tried to calm him down and asked what the universe was about this time. Author-san explained that it was a similar concept to the previous universe where they all went to a school and were wizards, but it would be completely different. Just as she finished speaking, the lights cut out, and the screen lit up. The scene began with 11-year-old Denki and Izuku sitting on a train, enjoying sweets and chatting. Denki gestured to a rat eating jelly beans and mentioned that George swore he once had a bogey one. He introduced the rat as Scabbers, commenting on how pathetic it was. Izuku nodded slightly in agreement, but then shrugged when Denki looked at him. Uraraka pointed out that it was kind of mean of Deku, to which he replied that it wasn't him and that he looked like a kid in that scene. Denki dramatically pretended to cry, claiming that Midoriya had wounded him, while Deku rolled his eyes. The boys got off the train, where a giant blonde man was waiting for them. Deku greeted All Might with awe. Mina asked if the scene would switch often, and Author-san confirmed that it would. The boys stood in the great hall with other students, waiting to be sorted. Denki leaned over to Deku, commenting on someone, and Deku nodded in agreement. Tsuyu asked who they were talking about, but Author-san shrugged, admitting she didn't know. The boys rushed into class, relieved they made it on time, joking about the look on Ms. Joke's face if they had been late. Outside, Deku held a broom while Denki yelled at his own. Denki shouted for the broom to rise, only for it to smack him in the face and fall back down. Deku laughed, which prompted Denki to tell him to shut up. Bakugo joined in the laughter, calling Denki a dumbass, which only made Denki pout. In the bathroom, a massive troll held Deku by the foot with a mallet. As the troll swung, Deku yelled at Denki to do something. Denki looked around in confusion, while Deku dodged another swing and urged him to act. Momo asked if Midoriya was okay, and Author-san assured her that he was fine. Deku held up a cloak and wrapped it around himself, causing his body to disappear. Denki gasped in amazement, and Deku exclaimed that he was gone. Later, the boys sat at a table where Denki was munching on chocolate frogs. He expressed his frustration about the lack of trust from others, and Deku nodded in agreement. Denki then threw down his card in exasperation, realizing he had drawn Nizu again. At a train station, the boys rushed to catch the Hogwarts train, but the portal wouldn't open, causing them to run into the wall. Bakugo laughed heartily at their misfortune. The boys found themselves in an older blue car that seemed to be flying on train tracks. Denki, who was driving, mentioned they must be getting close, just as a loud train noise filled the air. Deku told him to hold on, and they both turned to see an oncoming train, screaming in surprise. Denki held up his wand, which had broken. He lamented its condition, while Deku reminded him to be thankful it wasn't his neck. Suddenly, a crash echoed around them, and Denki, now panicked, asked what was happening. Deku, feeling scared, admitted he didn't know. Later, as they sat at large tables eating food, Denki showed off his wand, now taped together. He worriedly declared that he was doomed, and Deku agreed, leading Bakugo to laugh and comment on how funny Deku had become. In a hall, Denki cleared his throat while holding his broken wand. Deku, sounding concerned, suggested that maybe he should take over. Denki dismissed the idea, putting the wand away. In a cave-like place, Deku and Denki spoke to someone or something. Deku asked if they were talking about secrets from before. Denki, hearing something overhead, looked up in horror and whimpered, calling out to Izuku. When Deku asked what was wrong, Denki pointed up in absolute fear. Months after Eri was saved from overhaul, the scene shifted to Class 1A, where Kirishima was stumped on a test question. He heard Izuku complain about being bored, to which Kirishima suggested he scout the school for anything suspicious. Izuku agreed to the plan. While wandering, Izuku stumbled upon the teacher's lounge, where he saw Eri braiding Midnight's hair and chatting while enjoying some candy. Eri looked up and greeted him as Mr. Ghost Man, leaving Izuku surprised that she could see him. She explained that it was a special gift to be seen as a ghost in that world, smiling brightly at him. Izuku waved back, feeling a sense of joy, and asked Eri her name. She responded, prompting a curious question about who she was talking to. Aunt Midnight asked where Eri's friend was. Eri pointed to where Izuku was standing and described him, mentioning his green hair, star freckles, and emerald eyes. Midnight inquired about his age, and Eri replied that he looked about 15, like Shinso. Midnight nodded and asked if Eri knew his name. Eri turned to Izuku and asked for his name, to which he introduced himself as Midoriya Izuku. Izuku expressed concern about revealing himself, worried that he might unintentionally disturb the balance if he was a ghost. He began to mumble, and Eri called out to him, startling him. He waved apologetically, and Uraraka suggested they finish their task. Izuku quickly agreed. Eri and Midnight decided to search for Izuku's information. Eri was confused when Midnight mentioned going to the computer room, as she thought Izuku was right there. Midnight reassured her, and they left the room together. In the computer room, Midnight accessed the police files and searched for Midoriya Izuku. Within seconds, his file appeared on the screen. Midoriya Izuku. Age, 15. Status, deceased. Cause of death, suicide. Midnight was shocked and questioned how Eri could see him if he was gone. She asked Eri to fetch her father, Aizawa, and Eri quickly left to find him. Midnight returned her focus to the file, noting that Izuku was quirkless but had a dormant quirk that needed a trigger. His record showed he had been involved in multiple villain encounters, and he had a clean academic record with great grades. Midnight remarked on the interesting connection between Izuku and Eri. Meanwhile, Izuku teleported to Kirishima, who had just finished a test. Izuku explained everything to him, and Kirishima agreed that it was time for Izuku to reveal himself to the Baku squad, who often thought he was imagining things. Later, in the computer room, Aizawa questioned Midnight about bringing him there. She reminded him that it was just one time and explained that Eri had seen a boy in the teacher's lounge. Aizawa suggested that he could be an imaginary friend, but Midnight pointed out that Eri had named him Midoriya Izuku. She shared the information from the police database, revealing the shocking details about Izuku. Imiko-chan commented on the strange world they were in, and Izuku wondered what would happen to him next. Imiko-chan suggested he needed to see, and the scene shifted to show Izuku in a hospital bed, with the sound of beeping machines and someone crying. Monoma was at his side, visibly distressed and covering his face. Monoma, filled with fear, asked if something had happened to Izuku and if he was okay. Midnight reassured him that Izuku had been hit by a quirk, but the side effects were concerning. Monoma pressed for more information, and Midnight told him to wait as the truth would soon be revealed. Author-san arrived with a new companion. Midoriya, curious, asked who the new person was. The author introduced her as his partner, who would be assisting from now on. The newcomer waved and greeted everyone, introducing herself as Imiko-chan. She mentioned that the story takes place after Todoroki and Midoriya's breakup. The scene opened in Todoroki's room, where Bakugo was visibly upset, his voice filled with venom, while Todoroki looked down, burdened by shame and guilt. Bakugo confronted Todoroki, expressing his anger. He pointed out that Todoroki had made a mistake that could not be undone, emphasizing the gravity of the situation. He lamented how Todoroki had taken a rumor and escalated it by sharing details of an affair that no one had accused him of. Despite Bakugo's pleas for Todoroki to take a break, he refused, consumed by fear of his enemies. Bakugo reminded Todoroki that he was often his own worst enemy and highlighted how Dabi could act freely because he didn't respond to petty taunts. Bakugo concluded by stating that Todoroki had redefined his legacy, albeit in a negative way. Todoroki felt the weight of Bakugo's words, realizing that regaining Midoriya's trust would take time. Meanwhile, Midoriya was overwhelmed with emotions, tears streaming down his face as Monoma comforted him. The others watched, touched by Bakugo's fierce defense of Izuku. Bakugo expressed his frustration, feeling that Todoroki had trapped himself in a loveless situation at UA. He reflected on the sacrifices made for family and love, emphasizing that he would always prioritize his sister's happiness over his own. He declared that Izuku was the best thing in their lives and urged everyone to recognize how fortunate they were to have him. Everyone was taken aback by Bakugo's intensity and anger directed at Todoroki. As Bakugo stormed out of Todoroki's room, he slammed the door behind him. He approached Monoma, instructing him to dedicate every sacrifice to his sister and ensure she had the best life possible. Monoma affirmed his commitment to protect Izuku with all his might. The next scene shifted to Izuku, who slowly opened his eyes, confused about his surroundings. Monoma, relieved, exclaimed that Izuku was awake. Izuku struggled to remember anything except Monoma's name. Monoma reassured him that they were at UA High, where they attended school together. Just then, the door opened to reveal Recovery Girl and Bakugo. Monoma introduced Bakugo, who insisted on being called Kaken. Mina noted Bakugo's caring side, while Kaminari pointed out that Bakugo hadn't yelled. Bakugo reacted with irritation, showcasing his typical fiery personality. Izuku pondered if they were brothers, to which Bakugo clarified that they were not, but had grown up together like brothers. Recovery Girl introduced herself and assured Izuku that she would help him regain his memory. The following day in class, Aizawa addressed the students, explaining that Midoriya had been hit with a quirk during a fight 2 weeks prior and had just awakened. He informed the class that Midoriya had lost his memories of the past but remembered the name of his boyfriend. Aizawa warned that anyone who took advantage of Midoriya would face expulsion, especially cautioning them about Bakugo and Monoma's protective nature. As the students entered, Midoriya whispered to Monoma, who nodded in understanding. Midoriya introduced himself, admitting that he couldn't remember any of their names and asked for patience. One by one, his classmates introduced themselves, eager to help him feel welcome. Izuku found himself in a bewildering situation, exclaiming in shock about his unexpected demise. It turned out that Shigi had taken him down due to some unkind words about his grandmother. The women in the room expressed their gratitude towards Shigi for his actions, and he, with a hint of embarrassment, muttered his thanks, his pale face tinged with pink. Class 1A reintroduced themselves to Izuku, helping him recall memories of his past and his classmates. Todoroki kept to himself, occasionally contributing but mostly maintaining his distance. As time passed, the boys began to blush at the unfolding events. Weeks later, Izuku slowly started to remember his family and past, gradually recalling his time at UA. One day, while playing tag with Eri in the park, he accidentally bumped into some familiar faces, his old middle school bullies. They taunted him, remarking on how they thought he was dead and mocking his past as quirkless. Izuku stepped back in fear, instinctively raising his hands to shield himself. Aizawa, noticing the tension, asked what they meant by quirkless. Izuku explained that he had been considered quirkless until the entrance exams when he finally discovered his quirk. Uraraka chimed in, expressing her understanding of his struggles, while Izuku admitted he had thought he could manage on his own without bothering anyone. The bullies continued their taunts, and Izuku, feeling overwhelmed, wished to avoid confrontation. He mentioned that Bakugo was now his friend, which only fueled their laughter. They stepped closer, and Izuku instinctively moved back, trying to defuse the situation. Suddenly, they began to use their quirks against him, one of them tightening a grip around his throat while another struck him in the gut. Just then, Monoma appeared, declaring himself a hero in training and warning the bullies that he could copy their quirks. He pointed out that a pro hero was nearby and could come to help. The bullies dismissed Monoma's words, But their bravado faltered when Present Mike and Eraserhead arrived on the scene. Present Mike inquired about the consequences of illegal quirk use, and Eraserhead noted the severity of their actions against a UA student. The bullies, realizing the gravity of their situation, dropped Izuku and fled. Before Izuku could hit the ground, Monoma caught him, but the lack of oxygen caused Izuku to faint. Monoma called out to him, relieved to have reached him in time. Izuku reassured him, acknowledging his bravery and the presence of the pro-heroes. Imiko-chan, trying to lighten the mood, suggested moving on to the next world, hoping to shift the atmosphere in the room. As the chapter came to a close, the narrative hinted at the complexities of friendships and the challenges faced by the characters, setting the stage for future developments. In a universe filled with melancholy, the story centers around Jairu. As the screen illuminated, Jairu expressed his confusion about being the focus. He learned that this universe also revolved around music, which gave him a glimmer of hope. As Jairu walked Suki to his limo, he waved goodbye, feeling a mix of emotions. Mina, bursting with excitement, complimented Jairu on his appearance and his role as a teacher. Jairu confirmed that he owned a music shop, just like his father. After Mina returned to her shop and closed the door, she leaned against it with a sigh before heading to the piano to play. Jairu reflected on the men who occasionally entered Momo's life, recalling moments when she was asked out by many suitors. Momo questioned if she was the subject of Jairu's song, and he sang about how he had been fine with the attention she received until Todoroki came into the picture. The memories flashed before them, showing Momo turning down other men until Todoroki presented her with flowers, capturing her attention. Jairu and Todoroki competed for Momo's affection, and as the memories unfolded, it became clear that Momo chose Todoroki, leaving Jairu behind. Uraraka and Kami expressed their sympathy for Jairu, who began to tear up as he sang about his heartbreak and the difficulty of moving on. Mina, concerned for her friend, tried to comfort him, but Jairu insisted he was not crying. The memories continued to swirl, showing Momo accepting Todoroki's flowers and eventually receiving a wedding invitation that Jairu discovered, deepening his sorrow. Deku noted that Momo might not have realized the pain she caused Jairu, and as Momo faded away in her wedding dress, Jairu struggled with his feelings. He went on various dates, but Momo lingered in his thoughts. The scene shifted to Class 1A fighting together, showcasing moments of camaraderie and celebration between Jairu and Momo. Jairu reflected on her growth, becoming more confident in her abilities and supporting Momo. In a flashback, Jairu helped Momo prepare for her date with Todoroki, questioning if she was sure about him. Momo reassured Jairu, but the weight of the past hung in the air. Returning to the present, Jairu sang about being there for Momo's son, Suki, as images of her teaching him appeared. The song echoed her struggles with moving on, and she became lost in the music, unaware of someone entering her shop. As she concluded her song, she heard a familiar voice that she had missed, calling her name. The screen faded to black, leaving the audience with a sense of longing for Jairu's journey. The goat from earlier stood in the rain, bleeding. Cars had stopped next to the Tyrannosaurus paddock. Aizawa rushed through the rain to get back into his car. It informed Midnight that their radio was out and that Vlad King had instructed everyone to stay put. Concerned, Midnight asked about the kids' well-being, to which Aizawa replied that he hadn't asked but questioned why they wouldn't be okay. Midnight pointed out that kids could get scared, especially in an unfamiliar place filled with unknown dangers. Mineta chimed in, trying to defend himself, while Ciro reminded him that he often panicked during battles. Aizawa attempted to reassure both Midnight and himself, downplaying the situation as just a minor power hiccup. Midnight, feeling defensive, insisted she wasn't scared, and Aizawa clarified that he hadn't said she was. In the second car, Izuku suddenly appeared wearing night vision goggles, startling Hitoshi. Vlad King noticed and asked where he had found them. Izuku explained that they were in a box under his seat, excited about their ability to see in the dark. Yagi commented that Izuku was just a kid, and Vlad questioned the weight of the goggles, suggesting they were expensive. Izuku blushed with embarrassment but ignored Vlad's advice and climbed into the back seat. Hitoshi playfully smacked Izuku on the leg, but Izuku remained focused on the pouring rain outside. Shiro remarked on Izuku's boldness in ignoring Vlad, while Hitoshi scolded him not to scare him. Izuku, however, was captivated by the view through the goggles, marveling at the night vision. As time passed, Aizawa filled his canteen with rainwater and took a drink. Izuku suddenly sensed a rhythmic thumping sound. He asked if anyone else felt it, but Hitoshi remained silent, thinking it might just be another scare. Izuku noticed the cups of water in the front seat rippling with each thump. Vlad King speculated that it might be the power trying to come back on, but the thumping grew louder, causing concern among the passengers. Hitoshi expressed his annoyance at the noise, while Denki and Mina echoed his confusion. Izuku looked out of the car with the night vision goggles, scanning the T-Rex paddock. He noticed that the goat tied to the stake was gone, leaving only the chain swinging. Hitoshi finally noticed the absence of the goat, and just then, a loud bang echoed as something fell onto the roof of the car. It was a dismembered leg of the goat, shocking Hitoshi. Izuku looked up in surprise and saw the Tyrannosaurus devouring the goat whole. Panic set in as Vlad King rushed out into the rain, leaving the kids behind. Aizawa called him out for abandoning them in a strange environment, while Hitoshi's face reflected his fear. Aizawa and Midnight watched as Vlad raced toward a concrete bathroom, questioning his decision to leave the kids alone. Midnight tried to lighten the mood, but Aizawa was not amused. Suddenly, another sound drew their attention, and they looked up to see the T-Rex breaking through the now powerless fence. The dinosaur emerged from its enclosure, and Mike groaned about being right. The T-Rex approached the second explorer, nudging it with her snout. Aizawa instructed everyone to remain absolutely still, reminding them that the creature's vision was based on movement. In the front explorer, Hitoshi rummaged through the backseat storage and found a flashlight, which he accidentally turned on. The light caught the T-Rex's attention, prompting Aizawa to urgently tell them to turn it off. Izuku struggled with Hitoshi over the flashlight, and just as he managed to shut the door tightly, the T-Rex roared, causing the kids to cover their ears. The dinosaur moved the car slightly, eliciting screams from the passengers. As chaos ensued, the T-Rex's head crashed down, slamming against the plexiglass roof of the car. Although the plexiglass held, it was the only barrier between the kids and the T-Rex's powerful jaws. The kids screamed in terror as the dinosaur slammed its head against the car, tipping it into the air. A second impact flipped the car completely over, and the T-Rex stood atop it, attempting to bite its way through. The kids found themselves trapped in the rapidly crumpling vehicle, with mud and water pouring in around them. In the rear car, Aizawa discovers a box of flares and takes one. After a moment, he exits the vehicle and stands in the pouring rain, holding the lit flare. The students, including the Deku squad, cling to Izuku, fearing he might disappear. Aizawa calls out to the T-Rex, knowing this could be a risky move, but the children's lives are at stake. The T-Rex immediately turns toward him, letting out a thunderous roar. Aizawa waves the flare back and forth, the dinosaur's gaze fixated on the light. He then throws the flare aside and freezes in place as the T-Rex lunges after it. Mike exits the car with a flare of his own, trying to divert the creature's attention. Midnight also attempts to attract the dinosaur's focus, running with her flare. It works too well as the T-Rex begins to chase her. She urges Aizawa to get the kids to safety, insisting they need help more than she does. Aizawa is determined to protect the children, but Midnight throws her flare away, realizing it may be too late. The T-Rex is now in hot pursuit of her as she runs toward the bathroom where Vlad is hiding. Aizawa shouts in desperation, questioning why she is risking herself. He reassures the kids that he will protect them no matter what. Izuku blushes at the intensity of the moment, while Hitoshi looks concerned. Vlad, seen praying, suddenly realizes the T-Rex is approaching and slams the stall door shut. The dinosaur's head crashes into the bathroom building, causing Midnight to be knocked down under the collapsing roof. The structure falls apart, leaving Vlad exposed and seated on the toilet. The T-Rex stares at him for a moment before capturing him in her jaws. Back at the wrecked vehicle, Aizawa is trying to help the kids escape. Hitoshi cries out for assistance, and Aizawa helps him out before turning to Izuku, who is stuck. Izuku expresses his discomfort, and Aizawa reassures him that he will help next. As he tries to calm the situation, Hitoshi suddenly screams in panic as the T-Rex returns their way. Aizawa quickly covers his mouth, urging him to remain silent. He instructs them not to move, explaining that the T-Rex cannot see them if they stay still. The dinosaur looms in front of them, leaving a massive footprint in the mud. Its breath blows Aizawa's hat off, but he and Hitoshi remain motionless. The T-Rex's attention shifts to the wrecked car, and it begins to push it around. Aizawa and Hitoshi are forced to move to avoid being cornered against a concrete barrier. Hitoshi calls out for Izuku, and Aizawa shouts his name as well. With Hitoshi on his back, Aizawa grabs a wire and begins to rappel down the wall. The T-Rex continues to shove the car closer to the edge, causing Hitoshi to scream and cling tightly around Aizawa's neck. Aizawa realizes the car is about to fall on them and quickly scans for another wire nearby. He instructs Hitoshi to grab the wire, and Hitoshi complies. Aizawa runs toward it but comes up short. He uses his momentum to swing back and tries again. Hitoshi manages to grab the wire just as the car falls past them, narrowly missing them and landing in a tree below. The T-Rex lets out another loud roar. Midnight, Hisashi, and Toshinori were in the jeep when Midnight noticed a rhythmic pounding. Her gaze fell to a massive T-Rex footprint filled with rainwater, rippling with each thud. Denki asked about the giant footprint, and Midnight explained it was the mark of the T-Rex. Suddenly, she became alarmed, sensing an impact tremor. Panic set in as she called to the others, urging them to leave immediately. Yagi and Mike raced back to the jeep, jumping in just as the T-Rex appeared. Mike shouted in surprise, and Midnight urged Yagi to drive faster. Looking in the rearview mirror, Yagi saw the T-Rex's jaws looming closer. Mike yelled in shock, prompting Aizawa to use his quirk to silence him. Amidst the chaos, All Might was injured but focused on the task at hand. Midnight, in her haste, accidentally shifted the jeep into neutral, slowing them down. Yagi yelled for her to move, and they barely ducked as a massive tree branch shattered the windshield. The T-Rex charged through the debris, ramming the back of the jeep. Yagi managed to regain control and accelerated, leaving the T-Rex behind. They all breathed sighs of relief, and Midnight quipped about whether the incident would be part of the tour. Yagi agreed, noting that opening the park would lead to trouble. Meanwhile, Aizawa, Hitoshi, and Izuku navigated through Jurassic Park. In the distance, another roar echoed, putting Hitoshi on high alert. He couldn't identify the creature but urged Izuku to hurry up a tree for safety. Aizawa, determined to protect the kids, encouraged them to climb. Hitoshi expressed his disdain for trees, while Izuku, recalling a near-death experience, questioned how he had almost died. They could hear the melodic hoots of the animals around them. Perched near the top of the tree, they enjoyed a breathtaking view of the park, with towering sauropods visible in the distance. Aizawa playfully hooted to imitate one of the creatures, drawing their attention. Hitoshi panicked, fearing the animals would come closer, but Aizawa reassured him that they were herbivores. Izuku joked about their diet, and Denki chimed in, teasingly defending Hitoshi. Aizawa settled into the branches, allowing Hitoshi and Izuku to nestle beside him. He was surprised but accepted their closeness. As they prepared for the night, something in Aizawa's pocket pinched him. He discovered it was a velociraptor claw he had unearthed in Montana, prompting curiosity from the kids. They speculated about their future without dinosaur bones, and Aizawa acknowledged the challenges ahead. Izuku attempted to lighten the mood with a joke about a blind dinosaur, which Aizawa chuckled at. As the night wore on, Hitoshi expressed concern about a potential dinosaur return, but Aizawa assured him he would stay awake to keep them safe. With that, both kids finally closed their eyes, trusting Aizawa to watch over them as the claw fell to the ground. Izuku and Hitoshi felt a wave of fear for their alternate selves. Izuku hesitantly asked if they had survived this place. The response was reassuring, confirming that while All Might and Vlad King had not made it, everyone else had. Aizawa, concerned, questioned whether the incident at the park had truly occurred. The explanation revealed that while it hadn't happened, a decade into the future, a place called Jurassic World had opened. Emiko noted that this was just a glimpse into Aizawa and Mick's past during their years at UA. Aizawa, Midnight, and Mike exchanged worried glances. Mike raised his hand, suggesting they skip this world, prompting Nizu to inquire about what had transpired. Mike, attempting to deflect, claimed it was typical teenage antics that students at UA were responsible for at that time. Nizu, intrigued by the chaos, insisted they proceed with the video. As the video started, Shiggy questioned the presence of eggs. Mike explained that it was just Aizawa needing to throw something, and eggs happened to be what they had. All Might recalled that Oboro had helped with the videos, causing a tense silence in the room, especially among Mike, Aizawa, and Midnight. The students were puzzled, but the teachers understood the sensitivity of the topic. Todoroki found amusement in the destruction of a tea kettle, while the class remained silent. Denki asked Aizawa if he needed a therapist, shocked that he had survived drinking something questionable. Aizawa noted that Mike had only taken a sip, explaining why he could no longer have coffee. After one video, the reactions shifted dramatically. Denki commented on Aizawa's outburst over a printer, suggesting a week of detention for Kaminari. Recovery Girl was on the verge of losing her composure, questioning who had consumed the computer ink. A moment of silence filled the theater until Midnight admitted it was her. When asked if she had really drunk the ink, she confirmed it, reflecting on her choices during an angry Recovery Girl's interrogation. Vlad King connected the dots, realizing that Midnight's masked appearance during that week was due to the ink incident. The chapter concluded with a note about the author's desire to explore themes of angst or happiness in future chapters, along with plans for upcoming stories inspired by musicals. The author expressed excitement for an upcoming birthday story in December and asked for patience from readers.